Good morning, boys and girls, and welcome to the Recruiter Podcast. Today's going to be a little bit different because we don't have an actual guest. We're all hosts.
We're the guests. Yeah.
We're the guests. Hosts are the guests. Say that 3 times really quick. Go ahead, Ernie. Give it a shot.
Hosts are the guests. Hosts are the guests. Hosts are the guests.
Oh, that was pretty good.
Yeah,
It starts sounding weird.
Paused.
I bet if you went into like 5 or 6 times.
Oh, yeah, and I was really pausing too. Come on.
Host are the guest, host are the guest, host are the guest, host are the guest.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
I can't do that.
I rap a lot in the car, so my chops are getting there.
Don't put a mental image in my head of my son rapping in the car, like, white Italian, Greek Italian rapper. Just doesn't get it.
I disagree.
Well, yeah, that's why there's 64 crayons in a box, son.
I'm a lot cooler than you are. You just can't see it because you're not as hip as I am.
You think you're cooler because you're younger, half my age.
I guess.
I am probably the coolest 67-year-old man you know.
I'm thinking about it.
Go ahead. We got time. We got 2 hours, and it's whatever.
I'm going to come
Don't take
up.
long.
You're up there.
I'm not
top
talking.
5.
I mean, I'm not talking about like.
That I know personally.
Yeah, like Mick Jagger. Like he's cool.
Well, he's like 90 though.
He is. He's in a lot better shape than I am. That's for sure. Dude can dance.
He's a robot.
So here's what we got here, boys and girls, for the Recruiter Podcast today. I can't talk. That's bad for a podcast host, not to be able to talk. But what we're going to do is we have a couple subjects that we'd like to talk about that we've been talking about internally as a company that we feel could be beneficial to our awesome audience. And so we'd like to throw that stuff around. We're going to talk about things today such as emotional intelligence. I think we're going to talk a little bit about actual IQ and what's needed in a car dealership and what's needed in business, what's needed in relationships to make them successful or why they fail. I think we'll go into a little bit of a cost/investment conversation in regards to dealers and how they pay vendors, what they pay vendors, and how vendors pitch their stuff as opposed to maybe how we pitch our stuff, which should be a good conversation, I think, for dealers and vendors both. And whatever else happens to come up. I still want to talk about aliens at some point, not illegal aliens. I'm talking about aliens from outer space, but Area 51. I'm probably going to go. I've made a commitment to travel more this year, so I think Area 51 would be a good idea. Can you see me at Area 51?
I can't.
And
really, right?
And that's what you
I really can't.
Yeah, that's what I pick. Where are you going, Craig? Paris, London, Spain? No, I'm going to Area 51.
No, I'm going to free
never
the
take a
aliens.
vacation, like one vacation in
Right.
50 years. Yeah, I'm going to go to Area 51. I love it.
So this stuff is not free. The peaches on the table are not free.
The peaches on the
microphone-
table actually were free, but go ahead.
Oh, yeah, my bad. But they were handpicked by my son and my beautiful daughter-in-law and my beautiful granddaughters. So they're going to be awesome.
Peaches.
Yeah, we didn't do the sandwiches this morning. We didn't do Fiji water this morning. We're all messed up. So, but we have friends of the program that help supplement us financially, mainly because our YouTube channel has not done that yet. So what I need you to do is go to our YouTube channel, which is AutoMax Recruiting. We would ask you to be so kind as to subscribe. We would ask you to be so kind as to listen to it, because the only reason we're not monetized yet on YouTube is because of a lack of minutes. Everything else is in line. So watch it on YouTube. You can also watch this, obviously, those of you that are watching it are now watching it on either YouTube Live or streaming, or you're watching it on our Facebook page, AutoMax Recruiting. We are also available on all your favorite podcast audio platforms, which would include SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, all the big names. So those broadcasts are done about 10 days or so afterwards. So it's a constant barrage of the Recruiter podcast that's available to you. And then plus the short clips and everything. You can also go to our website, AutoMax Recruiting and Training, and find the podcast there. I think we're up. This is actually our 20th podcast. Let's hear it for the 20th podcast.
Yeah, we made it.
Yeah.
We did it, guys.
So our 20th podcast in dog years is really, because of the time, is really like this is like our 80th episode.
Yes, 10 years of doing this.
I'm telling you, man, it's like you guys have, well, no, not you. Yeah, no, you wimped out.
When?
But I've been doing these 4.5-hour podcasts.
Oh, yeah.
I did 431 with Mike Davenport. I did listen to this, with Marcus Stone, I did 4 hours, 44 minutes, and 45 seconds.
Yeah.
Had we quit 1 second earlier, it would have been 4:44, 44.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I saw the clock.
I know.
I did
That's a
leave on
long
that
time.
one.
Yeah, you did. You wimped out.
Yes, I did.
All right, so guys, please subscribe. Leave comments. Seriously, good, bad. If we're doing something that could be done better, I'd like to hear about it. Our egos are relatively in check, so if there's something that you'd like to see or some improvement that you'd like to see us do, let us know. We're open-minded.
Or if we missed inviting somebody to be a guest on the show.
Hey, that's a really good point.
Right.
This is different than all the Facebook Lives because obviously we dive deeper and it's not like sound bites and so forth. So if you know someone that is interesting, that can bring something to the table, that is willing, they got to get themselves here. We put out-of-town guests up in a real nice local hotel. It's only a couple minutes here from the studio in Bensalem, Pennsylvania. At All Systems Go AV. Check them out.
All Systems Go AV.
They're awesome. Did you guys happen to see their video of a house that's for sale in Bucks? Wasn't that beautiful?
Yeah.
Wasn't that well done?
Yes.
And I know where the house is. That house is on the way to New Hope. I know exactly where that house is, that stone house. I've driven past that house when I lived up in New Hope.
Interesting.
Yeah, like 20 years ago. Yeah, they really do super work. All Systems Go AV. They're just, and if you're local and you want to get into podcasting, their studio setup is awesome. It's a 3-camera setup. The sound is what we've been told is very good. It's a comfortable room. It's the producing. They have, one of them acts as a producer. I think we have Millionaire Dave, the producer, in there today. Millionaire producer Adam is, I don't know what he's smoking weed somewhere, doing something. So
That's nice.
Yeah, I don't know if he smokes. He probably doesn't smoke weed, and I just got him in all kinds of trouble. And they're going in for a big deal today, so I probably screwed that up for him. Sorry, guys. But at any rate, that's a long version to get around to the people that help pay for this would be our friends of the program. Who we're going to start talking about here today? Right?
Why don't we start with the guys at Tacobi?
Mm-hmm.
They have a message to us and to everybody else out there that if you had the opportunity, wouldn't you love to capture an interested buyer while they are looking at your ad? So you've taken the time to create an ad. You obviously want to get as much response as possible, and obviously you want to get those people in the door. Well, what if while they were looking at the ad, you could communicate with them? You actually can. By using Facebook lead generation ads and Tacobi software, you are able to immediately interact with your customer while they are looking at your ad via text message.
Nice.
Phenomenal. So with Tacobi, you're also able to follow up by text, import other lead sources, and text blast up to 1,000 customers at a time, all within minutes. We strongly urge you to visit tacobi.com and see how they can instantly help you message with your new leads. The technology is phenomenal.
Yeah, for sure.
Joe, you're involved with it.
Yeah, and even I want to kind of go away from the tech side of it because I don't understand the tech side of it. But just in my interactions with Dan, Dan Webb is an exceptional salesperson. If anyone doesn't know this,
that's a fact.
His follow-up is absolute relentless. I mean, he's like a one-man sales team. It's really impressive to watch that. Because we've been sending him some leads now. We do reselling for him at this point, and some of the stuff that I see him doing with our clients and the way he, again, is just absolutely relentless until he gets a yes. It's nice to see. good hustle from both of them, him and Jason, and I'm sure the whole team.
Yeah, they are. Dan Webb could be. There's a lot of good salespeople in the world, but this guy, I don't know. Dan, let us know if you get unhappy, and we can take you away from Jason. Love you, Jason. Love you, Scarlett. But if we got a chance to get Dan Webb, we're taking him away from you.
Well, they also hold their clients, which is a weird dichotomy, but they hold them accountable
Right.
For the results. In other words, they're going to get you massive results. You're going to have the ability to communicate.
Yes.
Are you doing that? Are you
Yes.
following up on the leads you're getting? Are you, everything you're
Yes.
supposed to be doing that you pay them to help you with? Are you holding up your end of it?
Right.
If not, frankly, they're all over you because
Yep.
they want you to be successful.
That's right.
And we can, I don't want to get too far off track because we want to get to our other sponsors. We can circle back to it. I'll make a note here. But Jason spoke this week about the synergy between lead generation and having the right people and the right amount of people to handle them, and how if you don't, the whole thing falls apart. And I'm sure it's very frustrating for him. And that's kind of where our relationship has formed and come from, because I made a joke on the post, and I said, if only you knew somebody who could help people get quality salespeople in their dealership. But they have given us referrals before, and of course we help them staff up too for internal staff. But the two really go hand in hand. If doesn't matter how many leads you generate, if the people handling them don't know what they're doing and aren't trained properly, it's not going to matter. Right. It's a big waste of money at that point.
Right.
So very important to hold your clients accountable.
And then we might as well talk about Rockstar Auto Conference. Matt Koenig and his crew, they just completed one this past Monday. The idea behind the Rockstar Auto Conference is you can choose any, there's a lot to choose from, and that's kind of what the point of theirs are, is that it gets a little frustrating. How do you know which ones to attend? You've got only so many more months left in this year, and as you wind down the year, you really should be preparing for next year. So if you haven't gotten the most out of this year and you are looking to plan for next year, the Rockstar Auto Conferences are one in which they truly are delivering new information that is helping dealers rock their market. And part of it is the people they're bringing in are not just auto industry people. They're people from outside the industry that are sharing not novel ideas, but they're novel to the auto industry because we're kind of sheltered. We kind of just stay within our world, and we're missing out on some things that can help. Maybe perhaps it's the culture, the AI. Maybe it's perhaps technology. Maybe it's perhaps how they interact with personnel. There's a lot of different features. So their conferences are considered unconference. They're one-day quick hitters. They just finished this last one in Detroit. The venues are always unique. There's other great features to their conferences as well. One of the reasons people don't go to conferences is time and money, right? I don't have the time, or I don't want to spend the money. Well, the time you're going to have to dedicate, self-improvement.
And it's a day. It's one day. It's not a 2.5 day, marathon.
Yeah, realistically, you might have to have an overnight,
Right.
maybe,
Right.
or you can drive there that day.
Right.
They make the conference free to the attendee, and you don't have to jump through hoops to have that happen. It's not like, well, you come and then you bring 2-3 people, and then we'll give you a free. No, everybody that comes and attends as an attendee, it's free for you. The vendors have covered everything, and they're not pitching you. It's not like, well, the vendors paid for it, so they get open field and just crush you.
And who's a vendor?
Well, we are, for
are.
one. And
AutoMax Recruiting.
And we've consciously not invested in other conferences and other ways of being a sponsor. We've chosen this one in particular because of the format. We found that when we have gone, you guys have been at the most recent ones.
Yeah.
It's just been, I'm going to say, intellectually stimulating for the two of you. You both come back
No question.
with fresh ideas. You come back with not a renewed purpose, but just a different way of looking at things.
The next one's in Austin. I fully intend. I've never been to Austin.
down
I
in
hear
Texas.
it's beautiful. I fully intend to, if at all
I'll be there.
possible.
I'll go to
that one.
Austin.
Yeah.
That's in October.
And the one after, it's in October?
Yeah,
And
awesome.
the one after that's in Seattle, which is cool as well.
Right.
Have you ever been to Seattle?
I have not. No.
Oh, it's
not much time on the
it's-
West Coast period.
it's with the exception of the politics, perhaps. It's awesome.
The
It's
views.
beautiful. It's really cool city. That in Portland.
Good swag. I'm wearing my Flick Fusion shirt. Shout out to Tim James.
Oh, nice.
Thank you, Tim. I have 2 of these.
Oh,
This is the nicest
how
shirt.
did you get that? Why didn't I get
Sweet.
one?
Just
I
gave
got
it.
2 of them. I went up and felt them. It's that pre-shrunk soft stuff. I'm like, oh, these are nice.
Oh,
So I
you got
started
it from
grabbing a few.
Rockstar.
Yeah. Met Tim
Oh.
James out there.
Oh,
You know Tim?
yeah.
Good dude. Funny story with the logo's awesome too. I just love
Yeah,
the
that
shirt.
is
So I'm
cool.
talking to Tim, and thick Southern. He's from Texas. He's got the thick. He's like, so Joe, I told my son. I said, son, I want you to think. His son created the whole all this is all his son. He goes, I want you to think 2 words: bad ass. And I was like, yeah, I think he nailed it.
Yeah,
So,
that's badass.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. But
That's awesome.
yeah, I had a good time.
So that's our sponsor.
And they're not all in Detroit, everybody.
No,
so
no,
don't,
no.
Don't worry
Right.
about that.
Yeah, and you know what? Something that Matt just came up with, I think yesterday. What they're doing, it's still free to attend, but there's a $99. What's it?
like a coaching.
You make a $99 to a charity. They picked a charity in Austin, and I'm sorry I forget the name of it, but I saw Matt did a live last night. So if anyone knows that, go ahead and type that in the comments. Your mother just texted me with some stuff, and I said, your son Ernie and I are doing a podcast. She said, Joe? I said, no, Kyle's doing a podcast.
There's way too much family AutoMax mesh.
There's a lot. There's more coming. We just brought on another family member.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Yeah, I got my son here and my younger brother, Ernie. So, at any rate, what's happened is with the free, it's a great idea, right? It's because, like you said, you nailed it. It's time or money. Those are the only things stopping people from going to conferences. There's no question about it. Excuse me. So he took away the money equation. But here's what happens. 100 people sign up. I'm coming. They click. They take their free ticket, and they don't show because it costs them nothing.
Right.
So it's like, no skin in the game. What's the big deal? Well, the big deal is order food for 100. We put on that Christian conference years ago. Dude, we spent $5,000 in food. So it's like, you order for 100, you prepare for 100, and 50 show up. That's a big loss. So to stop that, it's $99, but that money goes 100%, not $97. The whole $99 goes to a local charity. And I forget, and I'm sorry if anyone knows the name of the charity. If Matt's listening or someone can get to Matt, he can put that up and I'll read it. But it's a charity in Austin, and I think that's a super idea.
Fantastic.
So still, I mean, they're still not making any money. The sponsors are still paying for it. And you're doing a good thing that can be written off. So it still ends up costing you nothing. You take it off your taxes at the end of the year, and the $99 costs you $50 or $60 or whatever tax bracket you're in. Okay, so all right, we love our sponsors. We have 2 more that we'll talk about later. One just won an award, which is pretty cool. So with that.
Can I interrupt real quick?
Please, go.
We just found a B-level tech for Buck Chevrolet in Canal Fulton, Ohio for Dan Buck. And I think that's broadcast worthy.
It is because
It is broadcast worthy.
We've been working on it for a while, and Canal Fulton, Ohio is not an easy place to find people. So Ernie and I both got a text at the same time from the owner. So I just wanted everybody to know.
And I do want to say, Dan really stuck with it.
He's stuck by
Yeah.
us. It's been,
Take, if you can, or those of you that are listening nationally or internationally, we actually have international listeners, which is pretty weird when I look at that breakdown. But picture a quaint, really old, very small town on the outskirts of another small, bigger but small town.
right. It's right on the Erie Canal.
Right. And it's cute, but it's small. And there's just one. No, well, downtown there's
Main Street. I mean,
Main Street. There's just that one dealer. He's been there for a million years.
Yeah.
When we ran our service business, what was his name? Don Reed and our first pitch, the name of that place used to be Brown Chevrolet, I think, before this guy bought it. And that was our first pitch for service training in 2000. When did we start? 2000? It was before 9/11.
Oh,
I'm
well,
pretty
before.
sure. right?
Yeah, 2002.
So him and I
That's
did our
interesting.
first pitch there.
We were just talking about service trading on Facebook, on
right.
Jason's page.
Yeah. It's a tricky deal, but whatever. All right. So, where do you guys want to get started today? I mean, we've been talking as a group about emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
Within our company.
Yeah.
So, you guys want to start there?
Yeah. I got a whole bunch of notes here to go over.
Yeah.
I want to dig in a little bit, and we'll expand on a bunch of these topics. I've kind of got obsessed with emotional intelligence lately after my newfound love for Gary Vee.
Yes, you have.
Which I got to tell everybody. I'm going to rat on myself a little bit because my one friend made fun of me. So when Frank came on that day to talk about his relationship with Gary,
Frank Lopes.
he was on here, sitting right here. I had never heard of Gary Vaynerchuk
wow.
in my entire
Really?
life.
I did not know that.
And I kind of tried to play it off on the podcast because I felt really dumb. So my friend Matt texted me. He's like, really? Never heard of Gary Vee.
Seriously,
I said, dude,
I did not
I have
know
no
that.
idea who he is. So you guys were talking about him. I'm like, I don't know who this guy is.
Oh.
So, I figure, Frank knows him. I didn't know he was
Yeah. Huge.
a big deal because Frank's sitting there talking about
Right.
his
Right, we're
relationship
talking
with
about
him.
him
He
buying
owns a
their
wine
jets.
shop. I'm like, who the hell's this guy?
Right.
Just a
Some
regular
immigrant owning a wine shop. I'm like, all right, whatever.
Yeah, big deal, right?
So anyway, I've kind of immersed myself in all his stuff, and he's huge on that and talking about the role that it currently plays and the bigger role that it's going to continue to play within the future of the business world, period, across all aspects, leadership, culture, everything. So I've kind of been bringing it in-house and making sure our Friday calls touch on some aspect of that, even if it's just a spin-off. But it really does touch everything, especially when it comes to leadership and just communication amongst your team.
Right. What we do, folks, so you know you're up to speed here a little bit, we, the 35 people, men and women, that make up AutoMax, we are spread all over the country. 08, 09, we had 3 brick and mortars. We shut them all down. Probably one of the best moves we've ever made financially and for, everybody, work-life balance and the whole shoot match has been a real godsend. So what we do is to stay connected. We have a lot of different ways we stay connected, but we make sure that every single Friday we have a national call amongst the staff members. We have a national call every 2 weeks with all our recruiter trainers that are across the country. So that's how we stay in constant communication. Before you get going, we've never done this.
No,
I probably should do this a little bit. Some of the people that are
Questions and comments.
watching us live, Bobby Stevens, AutoMax rocks. You rock, Bobby Stevens. Bobby's been with us.
For 40 years.
Yeah.
Before,
17 maybe? 18?
no, not quite that long.
No?
13 or 14.
Oh,
No way.
no.
No
I
way,
think.
because he was definitely,
Yeah.
he was
Was
a
he-
regular when I joined, and I've been here for
It's got to be
17
14, 15 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Bobby was a closer for me at a Nissan dealership I ran 1,000 years ago. One of the best automobile salesmen I've ever been around, and I've been around.
And still super enthusiastic.
He's amazing,
right.
And he's old as dirt. He's your age, right?
I think he's older
He
than
still
me.
plays hockey,
yeah,
competitively.
and his grandkids, he's so thrilled about that.
Bobby's up in the middle of nowhere, Wisconsin this week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God bless you, Bobby.
And our top fan,
Anthony.
guess who our top fan is?
Anthony.
Anthony Santangelo.
He did a really nice job yesterday in
Didn't he?
El Paso.
He really did.
That was a really nice job. Both
Anthony,
he
you and Katie were
Yeah.
excellent. Katie's going to be on the podcast. She has
Good.
promised me 5 times. It's a matter of, I think there's probably 2 Katies because she seems to be everywhere. Our good friend, and this is an inside joke, our paranoid good friend, Chris Walsh, who's watching. Good morning, gentlemen, he says.
Chris,
Good
I
morning
owe
to
you. I owe you a phone call, dude. I'm sorry. This week's been a little crazy.
Chris, Joe, will get back to you. Stephanie, are you in? Stephanie, are you in Hawaii? I've lost track of you. Did you move back to Hawaii? Danielle Burke, is that a marijuana plant on your post? I think that's weed
Where?
on her post. Is
When we were talking about pot.
yeah, is that weed?
No.
No. Okay,
like
my bad. I got weed
Alfalfa
on the
sprout.
mind.
Maybe that's what
She
she was
is-
going for. I don't
Three
know.
young children.
Yeah. Jane Schuster is watching. Mama Jane. And Joanna Weber, if Joanna was not in my life, I would be totally screwed. Literally, I would be out of luck. John Tracy is watching.
Hey, Johnny.
John Tracy.
Yo, John.
John Tracy's been, hello, boys, he says. John's been with us for, I don't know, again, 15 years.
I lost
I mean,
track.
all these guys, it's like unbelievable.
Original crew.
Hey, Joshua, thank you for sharing the stream. That's awesome. Hey, guys, smash that share button as
Marcus.
As our friend Marcus Stone would say, smash that thing. Heather Burton, Ben Burton's better half, is watching. Thank you.
Thank
Hey,
you,
Heather. Anthony says, some immigrant owning a wine shop. Laugh my ass off, Joe Lockard. Joanna
That's how
says,
his
hello
family-
to my Automax
his
family.
family started.
Hello back. Anthony says, Bobby's the youngest 60-year-old you'll ever meet. That's a fact.
Yeah.
Danielle said, you mentioned weed, I guess meaning me. I guess I did.
Yes.
Jody's on the line. Jody's on the show. Hello, Jody. Ramona, good morning to you from Los Angeles. Or is that Louisiana? I forget where you're from.
Ramona.
Yeah. Gosh, Ramona, I'm sorry. You're awesome, by the way. You'd be good on this show, actually. All right, so we don't normally do that, but I thought
We
we'd do it
appreciate
today.
it.
So let's talk about these things. Let me get this thing started and pushed in a direction. I think, in my opinion, in the automobile industry today, it wasn't like this 5 years ago, 10 years ago. It certainly was not this way 20, 25 years ago when you and I were in retail. In our opinion, and this is what we do for a living, is recruit people from porters to presidents and everything in between. We do a lot of work with technicians. We are the best company in the country in getting automobile dealers, automotive technicians of any level. There's just no doubt about it. It's a fact. I'm not bragging. We are the number one source to get inexperienced salespeople in your dealership, general managers, what have you. My point is this, that IQ, any kind of intelligence, really didn't matter 25 years ago. Literally, you fog up a mirror, you could walk and talk and chew gum at the same time, you're hired, basically. Now, way back when I first got started, I mean, I'm talking about the 70s, there were very few green peas. You had to have experience before you get hired anywhere. I got lucky from that whole crazy story that I won't retell, but you had to have experience. Then we went through a spell where they would hire literally anybody. Over the last several years, I think because of technology, not I think, it is a no-brainer, because of technology, a salesperson, any employee in an automobile dealership, especially a technician now, a technician is not putting a big, long screwdriver against his ear and putting it in the middle of an engine to hear where that click's coming from. Those days are gone, man, and that's what I grew up in, working in a shop. You have to have a certain amount of intelligence to at least comprehend or understand or have the ability and the willingness to learn about the different technology and aspects of what your job's going to entail. Because being an automobile salesperson today, done the right way, is not a bunch of word tracks and sales techniques, in my opinion. It's a matter of being nice to people, which is emotional intelligence more so than just IQ. You have to know your product. You have to follow up, and you have to brand yourself. To do those things, you have to have a certain amount of intellect. In other words, IQ. Right? Would you guys agree with that?
Sure.
I mean, dealers hire people with a lower IQ because they have a hard time recruiting and hiring. And that's a recipe for long-term disaster. It's in our opinion now, and through Joe's work in looking into Gary Vee and studying this some, and he's gotten me into it a little bit more, and the rest of our crew. Emotional intelligence, I don't know if one's more important than the other, but I can tell you this, that if you're out there looking to hire people, if you can find a candidate that has an above average IQ or intelligence, is bright enough to intellectually accept concepts that they need to understand to be able to sell cars in today's market, and you add emotional intelligence to that, you got a no-brainer hire. fact, right?
Sure, yeah, and I think I'd take it a step further and say you just need base level IQ. I don't think it really has massive importance in the face of emotional intelligence, and I'll get into it because there's a lot that goes into it. This isn't just, I think a lot of the stuff that you were talking about, being trainable, following a process, marketing yourself, being comfortable around other people, all that falls under the umbrella of emotional intelligence. We're going to go through it here in the 4 components. So I think even if you have a base level of intellect, heck, if you're talking about the trade-off, would I rather have one with a lot of
Right.
IQ or one with a lot of EI? I think
Right.
it's a no-brainer in sales, or in the sales world for me, that emotional intelligence would trump that every single day, especially with the highs and lows that we face on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis.
Such as?
The incoming massive recession that's been on the way for the past
Right.
6 months, 12 months, et cetera.
Right. 18 months, 2 years.
Fourth quarter. How about that?
Okay. Right. So, all right. So, it seems like car dealers are the only ones talking about gloom and doom about car sales.
Well, and I'll
Yeah, I
take it
know.
a step further. I feel like it's only, are we going to really just let loose here?
Let
And
loose.
I feel like it's Cox Automotive. I don't think it's car dealers at all. I think it's
I don't
I think
disagree.
it's those people. I don't, where we talk to, and I'm not bragging here, we talk to on a weekly basis probably more car dealers than just about any other people in the country, in the
Correct.
industry, because we're talking,
Right.
actual dealers are going to 20 groups and they interact
Right.
with their peers.
Right.
But this is every day, every week for us. So we're having conversations with these people, and I can't name more than a small handful of people that I've talked to that have said, things are a little slow right now.
No.
I just
Right.
don't hear it.
Right.
No one's saying that.
I don't
to
hear
us.
it.
Right, I agree, and we're going to talk about Dealer World in Troy Spring, and they just made Inc. 500s. What are they?
I don't know where he
200
came in.
something.
Well, isn't it
I know
the
the
5,000
percentage
I'm going to
growth.
look up the art, but
I have in front of me.
so, and you have to apply for that, and you get an Inc. Now I can just tell you this, and congrats and all props to that team. They're just awesome human beings and a great company. I would venture to say, and we know what our gains are for this year. We're having top 2-3 year in a 21-year history.
Sure.
This year, so we're not seeing it. So stop talking about it because it's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, it's
Well,
like,
if you tell yourself you feel like crap every day, you're going to feel like crap.
you're right.
If you say you're going to sell less cars, you're going to sell less cars. Get rid of that crap. That is crap thinking. That's
Sure.
Is this in any way just a reflection of the rejection that everyone faces within the auto industry, though, on a daily basis, being
maybe
and that just starts to
I'll go into a group, Ernie, and that's a good point. I'll look at a group, and someone will make a post and say, "I'm having a lousy month. I've only got 3 out for the month," and then it's an avalanche. Yeah, this month sucks, and then all the naysayers jump on board, and then one of the admins, I'm going to say it's in Sales Hustlers or Rise and Grind. These guys, the people that run these groups are awesome people and very motivational and very positive
I say caring.
and very caring. And so they got their admins will jump in and they'll redirect the conversation to a more positive vein because they know that is a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you think you're going to do bad and everything's bad and you start finding, well, the economy's bad. The Dow lost 800 points yesterday. So what? Today it's up 80 or 90 or whatever. just looked. It's hang in there. Everything's fine.
Well,
I'm going to be interested to hear what you
Sure,
but-
sure, and this will all apply to this. I'll get into it, but
Yeah.
let me say real quick. Recessions are going to happen on their own. You
They
don't
are.
need to talk about it. It's
Correct.
part of the business cycle of a capitalist society and an open market.
Exactly right.
It's just going to happen.
Thank
so
God.
so we don't need to sit right. It happens.
Right.
So we don't need to sit here and keep talking about it and it's doom and gloom. It's like, it's going to happen and you
Right.
should always be prepared and
Prepare.
you should always run lean and be efficient. That's fine. But I think it's more political stuff. I was talking to you the
Yes.
other day about I'm reading a Washington Times piece that just popped up. I just so everyone knows, I didn't actively seek out a Washington Times piece.
Yeah,
It just
good.
came up on
That's
my
my
phone.
boy. Right.
It was an update. So
Right.
I'm reading it because, you see the Dow goes down 700 points. I want to read about
Right.
it. So I read about it. I didn't get 3 paragraphs in, and it just turned into a liberal political piece
Right.
about Trump. It's like,
Right.
I don't need to hear about that stuff.
Right.
I don't want to hear about it.
Right.
I don't care. It has nothing to do with my
Right.
political affiliation.
Right.
I came here to read about
Right.
black and white facts.
Right.
I wanted to
Right.
hear about the inverse relationship between long-term and short-term bond yields, and I got to sit here and listen to
Exactly right.
political commentary.
That's
It's
right.
like,
Why did the market move? Because
Right.
it's not based on earnings.
Right.
It's all based on rumor mills and media. I mean, completely.
right. So it doesn't. You're right. It doesn't need to be talked into existence because it's going to happen anyways.
Right.
So
Yeah. So, all right. So you got a sales team. You have a whatever. You're in a dealership. Let's stay automotive for a while, and then we can move to relationships.
Well, yeah,
or
because you had asked other guests if they owned a dealership, what would they do?
Right.
I can tell you right now that everything to do with the emotional intelligence
Wow.
would be flat out my
Yeah.
focus. I would be investing
Yeah.
all kinds of money into my people beyond the technical skills of how to do their job,
Good
but
point.
to teach them these skills.
Right.
Because, if you have, and I'd require the spouses to be in attendance to these
Ooh,
training.
love it.
My point would be that if my employees can become better at managing their own personal life,
Yes.
they're going to bring into that then at work
Yes.
a more they'll be focused. They'll be
Well,
able to work. They won't
right.
be.
right, especially in our industry because you're there a lot. It's
Right.
it's longer hours. It's
Right.
different hours.
Second family for
And
sure.
sales is just hard to separate from your personal life. It's one big
It-
thing.
Yeah.
If
it
I'm
is.
having a bad day with the family at home, I'm going to have a bad day at work.
Absolutely.
There's
Right.
no
Well-
way to separate the two.
Well,
Or
it's
management.
a good example that just goes right by you guys because you do it all the time. It's like I'm blessed to have my son, my daughter-in-law, and my 3 granddaughters staying with me in Jersey for a few days. They're using me as a cheap hotel, actually. That's what
And
I think is
babysitter,
happening.
right, Probably.
we cooked dinner.
Yeah, you did. The dinner was awesome, by the way. But last night, it's got to be 9:00. You're doing something. I don't know if it was on your laptop or on your phone. Your wife walks in and says, "Are you working?" Not like, "Are you working?" But to not interrupt you. Are you working?
Right.
Right? That's a whole different thing, man. That is support that is so important,
Right.
and that is I don't know what which one of the 5 or 4 pillars that falls under, perhaps empathy. I don't know, but that is strong,
Right.
and that's the kind of support that ladies that you need from your guy. If there's a guy in your life or another woman in your life, however you live your life, that's up to you. I don't care.
Right.
Or vice versa. It's important, so important that you have that some sort of support at home if you're in any kind of relationship. That kind of support to be really successful in any career, but specifically automotive. You got to have support from the people around you, even your children.
Well,
I
yeah.
mean, even your children. You said, and I think that's powerful. Bring the significant other in.
Absolutely.
But bring in the kids. If they're old enough
they-
to understand almost anything, bring them in because they're a big part of the whole deal.
it's a big part of why
Daddy, why are you working?
Yeah.
Why don't I see you? I saw a video the other day. This poor little boy, his mom's in the car business, and I'm sorry, I forgot. It was a heartbreaking video. And I don't know the person, but I remarked, ouch. She's getting ready to go to the dealership, and her little boy, looked to be 5 years old, is like begging her not to go, blocking the door, saying the car's broke out in the garage, And it's like, oh my God, it was breaking my heart. But, and not that she hasn't tried, I don't know the person, but that's how important, even at 5 years old, you got to get them on board. Got to get them on board because this is, why are we working so hard? Or why do we work? To do what?
earn a living, provide.
Provide for our
Comfort.
families, right?
Freedom.
Right, exactly. I mean, that's why we go out, kill the beast, bring it into the cave. I mean, That's the way it is.
And
It's
to
in
me,
our
this
DNA.
applies to we're talking sales, but to me, this is the entire dealership. I mean, everybody. I'd have every technician.
Yep.
There, I mean, everybody in the
No, I
dealership.
More
love it.
important for the tech,
Well,
maybe.
because to me, ultimately, if my team is better at controlling their emotions, being able to better communicate with one another, they're going to then be able to better communicate with my customers. They're going to be able to better listen. The environment, that culture that's in my store will
Yeah.
ultimately be one where people want to be at. It's going to attract. It's going to attract customers because when they come, they're the way they're treated is going to be exceptional. They're going to tell people, and then from an employer standpoint, I'm going to have the pick of the litter of people that want to come work for me. They're
Good
going to want to
point.
come work for me. I won't have to advertise it. They're going to, and I know that the concern is, well, I'm going to spend a lot of money. I'm going to develop people, and they're going to leave me.
Right.
Yeah, they are.
Right.
They
Right.
are.
That's
So
okay.
what? It is okay.
That's okay.
It's completely okay.
Right.
While
What have
they're
they
with
done?
you,
Right, exactly.
let
I'm
them
sorry.
be the best they can be.
Correct.
It's only going to. I mean, I realize it's money, and,
Right.
and so there's but the upside of this, then I think it can trickle even further into society
Right.
in the long run.
Well,
So-
and I think it's cheaper than the other trainers.
Yeah,
So you
sure.
talk about
No
so that
question.
one of the
That's
main
a good
things
point.
that Gary said that hit for me on this. It was one of the first videos I watched him that pertained to this. And he comes right with it. So I apologize because he's 100% raw, and that's another subject. He's got into it too. He said, I can train anybody on a process. I can train anybody on a piece of software. I can't train you not to be a douchebag. And that really hit with me because a lot of this stuff is stuff you have to work on yourself.
oh, absolutely.
And I mean, what do we really do to dig into this stuff? And I'll go through when we go through these. I got to get to these so we can actually start digging into it. You talk. So let's say in your hypothetical, you're opening your brand new. It's Ernie Castro. It's Ford. You're having the open house for all your new employees. You want the entire families there. The training is going to consist of talking, spending time together. So it's not quote unquote training. So there's not a huge, tangible investment here other than time. It's just talking about time and open and talking about what you expect from people and setting expectations and setting a culture and letting people understand this culture, this takes precedence over everything. This is way more important than your bottom line and people appreciate that. People
Sure.
start to feel it, and I don't think you end up with turnover at that point because people are going to find that's
true.
the exception. That's not the rule. They're not
Right.
going to find that anywhere else.
I think the turnover that you'd ultimately have where people's life situations move on. So you get married and maybe
Sure.
the spouse lives somewhere else and
Right.
goes back to their family, or you get to a point where there really isn't an opportunity any further for advances. I mean,
They've outgrown it. Sure.
There are going to be some limits within the dealership,
Right.
but they can still go on and be successful.
Well, Jason Girdner asked a question the other day on a post, something about would you spend more advertising? It had something to do with developing people versus spending money on
Yeah, I was
advertising.
just talking about that earlier. Yeah.
Right. So, and my comment was, well, it doesn't matter what my comment was. What matters is when I first got into business, salespeople were trained to become managers. That was what happened.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't take place anymore. It does. It just does not.
I'm still for I'm definitely for that. But I'm
Absolutely.
trying to express also that I'm more for life skills.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Life skills.
Let's get them developed in all areas of their lives and let them move on. Let them be as great as they can be. Let's go back to John Priest.
Yeah.
One of the best recruiter trainers literally ever in the history of the world. Left us, right? Did his own thing, has been doing his own things. He's ultra successful. Are we still friends with him?
Yes, we are.
You bet. We're big.
Yes, we are.
It's like, God bless them, man. If we can develop men and women to go out and be better, I'm all for it.
Right.
So it's it's funny because it's a big circle. So the stuff that you're talking about and the things that you're talking about right now, that's emotional intelligence. To foster emotional intelligence, you have to show your own and build your own emotional intelligence. So it feeds back into it. And I'll get into. I'm just going to jump in here so we can start doing examples.
Please.
So there's 4 components. The first is self-awareness, and that's a big part of it. A lot of times when people hear emotional intelligence, they just think self-awareness because that's another buzzword. I know a lot of people talk about self-awareness.
Right.
Within self-awareness, there's probably 2 main things. First, knowing your strengths and weaknesses, which is a big one in the automotive industry, and I think something that at the top we struggle with a lot.
Yes.
Humility and knowing your strengths and weaknesses. Knowing your weaknesses and surrounding yourself with complementary people that can fill in on some of those weaknesses.
Huge.
Not accepting, always working to improve, but knowing I'm always going to come up a little bit short in this area.
Amen.
And surrounding yourself with people that are better at it is massively important and something that's not done enough.
Right. Dealers, managers, salespeople, whomever. I hope you just heard that and maybe even wrote it down. That is absolute key. If you have a weakness, identify it. Wrap your arms around it. It's okay. Try to get better at it, but then have people around you that can supplement for your weaknesses.
Right.
That's crazy important. Great point.
And on the flip side, the strengths too. Work towards your strengths. Knowing your strengths, a lot of times, and anymore where so much of advertising is steered towards picking apart people's weaknesses, people seem to be way more in tune with their weaknesses than their strengths anymore. So as important to that is knowing your strengths, playing to your strengths, and being proud of your strengths, and knowing who you are and what you're good at. Second half of self-awareness is what we've been talking about, where people more relate to self-awareness, and that's assessing emotions, knowing your emotions, being aware of your emotions, being aware when you wake up in the morning of, just taking a second, man, I don't feel great today. I'm a little off today.
Right.
Accepting it. You don't have to hide from it. It's great to be positive, but especially in sales, I read through all this stuff and I'm like, gosh, this is like a Bible for salespeople, man.
Well, you did it the other day,
coaster.
didn't you? Didn't you have like some sort of crappy morning?
I had a horrible. I just woke up in a funk last Friday.
Right, for no particular reason.
No particular reason. And I mean, I knew it right away, so I grabbed it, and I wasn't thinking I'm going to get past this. I wasn't forcing myself past it. I was just feeling it. We do the Friday call, and I usually MC the Friday call.
Right. You were going to call it off.
I was going to give it to you. I was going to say, hey, can you do the call today? I'm not feeling it.
Right.
And I actually I listened to some music, and I got turned around. Dirty Heads released a new CD.
You told us.
Dirty Heads is kind of cool. That's how cool I am. Is like I like Dirty Heads, so that's how cool I am.
Okay.
All right. Well,
Coolest 67-year-old.
I'm just pointing it out.
All right.
All right.
So anyway,
if there's any other 67-year-old guys on the listening right now, do you even know who Dirty Heads are?
You got me there.
Okay.
But why do you know who they are?
Because of you.
Okay.
All right. Well, because you're cool. I mean, I'm not taking away your coolness.
That's my humility coming through.
Right.
So recognizing that and feeling it.
John Tracy, dealers spend too much money on balloons, to answer your question, I think. Balloons are cool.
What was his question? We don't know the question.
The question was, how much do dealerships spend on balloons for the showroom? A lot.
Where the hell did that come from, John?
I don't know. John's day drinking.
Keep up, John.
Is John in the deal this week? No.
That could be a problem. He might be.
He could be day drinking.
John, you working? I forget if John's working.
Forget.
No. John is returning.
He's moving back to Florida.
No, returning his son. He got rid of one of his sons.
He got rid of one of his sons.
Yeah. He told
There's a group.
One down.
Him and his boys.
Yeah, that's a crew, man.
That
Could you
is a
imagine them
crew.
at these games.
I can't. I see the pictures and I'm like, oh god. And then I imagine that they are just John. You and your kids are the stereotype of every Boston Red Sox fan in the entire world.
Right.
I'm like, there's got to be just 10,000 of you and your son around Fenway Park for all these games.
Right. You guys got lucky taking 2 out of 3 from the Tribe too. By the way,
so talk about that.
I don't think the Red Sox are going to make the playoffs. Not going to even make the playoffs.
So going back. So yeah, I did. Recognize I was having a bad day, accept it, feel it, and you kind of try to do some things to move past it. But let yourself feel it. It's recognizing emotions when you have them.
Right.
So some tangible things you could do. We talked about some things we could do for strengths and weaknesses. keeping a journal, something that I think you've talked about,
Just
that
started.
you've just
Yep,
started. Writing stuff down. Just and it sounds hokey. And again, a lot of the problem with this stuff is, we talk about sales, we talk about automotive. It is a macho industry. It's a male-dominated industry, and nobody wants to talk about their emotions. Like I can't talk about my emotions. It's 1960.
Right.
This is
and I'm a
important
guy.
stuff, and it affects you, and it affects the people around you, and it affects how much money you make. These are things you should be addressing. So keeping a journal is a big one. Just slowing down, which sounds simple, but taking a breath and slowing down. We'll get into it here in self-management, which is part 2, but I have 3 small kids. I don't know how many times I've caught myself in the middle of a tirade, and you just have to stop and take a huge, deep breath.
Yep.
And I don't know if it's that physiology,
Yes.
psychology thing, but it does slow you down, and it does make your brain. Maybe you're just getting better oxygen to your brain.
Well,
and
this
it just
morning
makes you think.
with your 6-year-old, she was having a minor meltdown
Right.
at 7:30 in the morning, and I totally missed it. You're sitting on the stair with her, and all of a sudden, either it hit you or something. Say, "Oh, you haven't eaten yet."
Yeah, right.
So
we do it way too much. Or
it's
they
a
don't
blood
drink
sugar
water.
thing.
They'll go 3 hours without drinking water. And I'm
Right.
like, they might be small, but they're the same creatures as we are. They need
Right.
the same things that we do.
Right,
So
and
yeah,
we miss that.
The physical matters. Well,
Right.
Well, that's funny because that Friday, what did you say? I told you everything that I did from the time that I woke up in a bad mood.
Right.
And I didn't even pick out going to the gym. I
Right.
said, I listened to the new Dirty Head CD on
Right.
the gym. He goes, well, there it is right there. You walked
Right.
on the treadmill for 20 minutes and
Right.
went and worked out before the call.
Right.
So it's massive. And I do feel it
Right.
on the days where I don't work out. I know we
Me
talk about it on
too.
the show all the time.
Yeah.
So that's not in here, but I think it very well could be
Right.
to do anything.
Right.
And do it in the morning. Everyone's like, I like to work out
know.
at night.
Oh,
I'm like,
exercising?
our bodies
hard.
aren't built that way, though,
No,
man. Our
it's not.
circadian rhythms do not work that way.
Right.
And I used to work out at night, and I'm telling you, it gave me insomnia. It was
Yeah.
great, but you're not supposed to be that revved
Yeah.
up
Right,
late
it
at night.
revs
Yeah,
you.
I can't do it. My best workout times are 11 in the morning.
that's fine. Yeah,
You know?
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Before you have a natural rhythm, and
Right.
I mean, you
Right.
feel it.
No doubt.
How tired do you get after lunch? I mean, I'm 38 and I get tired after lunch.
It's nap time at 3:30,
Right,
dude.
man. Hey, other countries nap.
That's
I know
right.
They do.
Other
we should.
other civilized countries nap.
Right. Car
And they're
dealerships.
just as productive.
I think we should have milk and blankies
I don't
at the
disagree with
dealership
nap
at
time.
3:30.
I
Well,
don't
the
disagree.
siesta, right? The Spanish, didn't they always do
Yes.
their 1 hour, 2 hour
Spanish
siesta after
do.
lunch?
Dude, when
And
I
then
was
shut
in
down the
when I was
business
in Paris,
right?
you better eat
French nap.
by noon because you ain't eating again until 7:00 at night.
Yeah, everybody
Because they
chills.
close. There's nowhere. Oh, you can't order a croissant at 3:00 in the afternoon. They're all sleeping
Right.
or whatever they're doing.
Right.
In France, they're getting drunk on wine.
Right.
Or
You know,
whatever they're doing.
and what you're saying about the exercise, I guess you got to exercise when you can. But so
Yeah.
many people are now seemingly getting up super early.
Yeah, and I don't agree
guess.
with that either.
I don't
honestly.
know.
It
Yeah,
it
that's
depends
gotta
on when
throw
you're
you
going to
off.
bed.
So-
I see people bragging about their 4 hours.
4 in the morning.
So there is science to not everybody needs the same amount of sleep.
Yeah, very
but
few.
there's
At least
a limit at
6.
that.
Yeah.
I haven't seen anything that shows less than 6 hours is sustainable or healthy for anybody. And I've seen
Agreed.
some crazy studies on by day 3 they put them on a computer. They'd purposely sleep deprive people, and by day 3 their baseline intelligence was off by like 200%. Reaction time,
Wow.
everything.
right.
Wow.
And it happens fast.
All right, now, you said, excuse me, for those of you that are listening, I have a peach in my mouth, which is pretty rude, but, what the hell. So you said 4 pillars. Are we calling them pillars?
No, it's 4 components. There
Components.
are 5. There are now. There's other sites that do 5. So
Yeah.
within these components, as we go through, I'll show you all 5 of those things
Right.
that are out there on the internet get hit
So
on.
the pictures that I took instead of notes like you have are the 5 are self-awareness, self-regulation.
I'm going
which
to get
is
on
a
to
big one for me.
Yeah, I'm getting on to regulation X or self-management.
Okay. Motivation, empathy, and social skills. What's
So
missing
that
from
all falls under 3, social awareness. We'll
Oh.
get to that. So it's like
Oh,
they're just
okay.
it's just different ways of saying the
I was
same
going to
thing.
say there's more than just.
There's a ton of stuff out
Yeah.
there. It's big talk. So let's go on to part 2. There's another Lockard. It's a Lockard fest. Self-management, self-regulation, like you said, it obviously is a big one because you can talk about self-awareness all you want, but it doesn't do any good to recognize these things and not do anything about it or not make improvements in yourself or help the people around you make improvements. The quote that I loved, and I mentioned it on the call where we talked about this, was, do you react or do you respond? And that really hit home for me because I have spent years of my life reacting to everything.
Yeah, and then we're wired that way. And it happens instantly, and you can't you can't react to what that. But you learn, and that's the point where you're going to be bringing up. You have to learn how to recognize that impulse of reaction and then how to manage it differently.
Well, and you said something that I mentioned on our calls that I want to make sure our staff knows that I'm not preaching to people on these calls. These are things that I fall short on, and these are things that don't just happen. This isn't a thing, and that's another reason I put EI over IQ. IQ is born. I mean, there's not a whole lot you can do to increase your IQ. This is stuff you have to work at because, like you said, this goes against the grain of human nature almost across the board. Almost across the board. You can be as healthy and well-adjusted as you want to be. These are natural instincts. You have to fight and you have to practice. Like you said, you have to train yourself to behave a certain way.
Right. That was going to be one of my questions to you. Is this a learned behavior? Obviously
definitely.
it is.
Absolutely.
And you just mentioned it. It needs practice.
Absolutely.
You can't read it, learn it, and go, okay, I'm good.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
And then you have to put it
What
in
did I say last
man.
night when I was prepping for the show? I'm like, man, I love this stuff. I wish I didn't suck at it so bad.
Right. Well,
and some of them, it's parts, different parts. And then I mentioned we got on to part 4, and we were talking about organizational awareness or social awareness. And I started reading, I'm like, oh, I'm great at that. I'm doing that all the time. And, and I'm going to talk about how it makes you a better salesperson when we get to that, because I think social awareness is a huge part of success. I told you, me and Brad Robinson got into it, talking about it on Jason's page. We had a back and forth about the importance of that. And some of that is stuff that you're just born with. And you can work on it and fine-tune your thought processes, but I'll get to it here in a minute, but let's talk more about self-management and responding instead of reacting. Like you said, it's that initial instinct. And I mentioned it when we had the call, you're exceptional at this. You've always been a model for me in level-headedness, in responding instead of reacting, because for years, and I've kind of filled that gap a little bit, but you still take a lot of the disgruntled client calls. I mean, a lot of that stuff comes into you, and frankly, for a long time, it was because I sucked at it so bad that it just wasn't good. And we'll trade off. You'll tell me, Joe, I can't talk to this guy. It's not going to go well. You should call this guy. And so we've kind of tried to go back and forth on that when we know we can't separate our emotions, but not just verbally attacking someone. Listening, truly listening, and making a logical decision, response, whatever the interaction may be, is huge.
Yeah. The listen to understand rather than respond is a big deal. Very important.
Right.
Very important.
And part of that is not compromising your values. So we go back to culture, and we go back to understanding who you are as a person and who you are as a company. So no, I'm better than this. No, I this isn't who I am. But it's not enough to just say this isn't who I am. You start acting a certain way, it is who you are, Perception is reality. So if you're putting it out there, if you're a negative person and in your head, I'm not a negative person, but everything you say is negative, you are now a negative person, regardless of how you feel about yourself or what you're thinking in your head. If you're not staying true to your values, both as a person and as a company, you're going to come up short. It's going to cost you both in life and in business. So I think that's a big part you talk about in this section. What are things you could do? I think assessing your values and establishing a set of values, not just for your company, but for yourself as a person. What do I believe in? Who am I as a person? Goes a long way in self-regulating yourself, because you can stop yourself and say, I'm better than this. That's not who I am.
Write that down.
Right.
You got to write that down.
Absolutely. Write everything down. Seeing stuff and writing stuff's huge for me.
Yeah, it's big. Yeah, it's weird when you involve your senses, even just the touch, rather than putting it in your phone, which I've gotten in the habit of doing.
Me too. We talked about it on the show, not doing it. Now I look at my phone and I got all these notes. I'm like, when did I start doing this?
I know, it's weird. When you write, touch being a sense, obviously, when you write it down, see it, man, it makes a big difference.
I agree.
It really does. It really does. So, all right, so we have a salesperson, a person in a dealership. So, and this person is lacking in most or all of these skills.
Right.
How do we help him or her? What do we, as a manager, what do we do? Where do we start, would you say, in your opinion?
So I think you start with culture, but I think it should have been established on day one. I think, again, this all starts at the top. And whether it's the top of your family, if you're the leader of your family, if the leader of your business, if you're not establishing these things and establishing it in the right way, not ruling with an iron fist, but explaining to people why these are the values, why these are important, giving the whys instead of just do this, do this, do this, and letting them see how it's going to affect. Because let's face it, no matter how much anyone loves their job, they love their family and they love their free time a lot more.
Yes.
So show them how it's going to make a positive impact that way.
Great.
And how it's going to improve their actual life and not just their job.
Great. That's a big point. And I would ask that you people write this down, what Joe just said. Let me paraphrase it for you. That telling someone, sharing invaluable information is important, but it's only a step. The real, how it's going to stick is the why behind it. In other words, what's in it? Here's what's in it for you. Here's your why. If you do this, if you practice what I'm suggesting you do starting now, here's what'll happen for you. Here's what's in it for you. This is the why. This is why I'm asking you to do
Absolutely.
this, because this is how it's going to improve your life.
Absolutely.
In both your area of work and at home. The why is really important. In management, frankly, it's easy to overlook that because you have so many responsibilities. You got shrapnel flying at you at all different directions and speeds, and to sit down and take a breath and say, "Okay, dude, here's why I want you to take this guy for a demo drive," instead of, "Did you drive him in a car? No. Why?" Hey, look, next guy you don't drive in a car, just get in your car and follow him home because you're gone. Tell him why it's important.
Absolutely. And frankly, you mentioned responsibility. You mentioned telling them why and doing it right the first time. That should be it. You mentioned you have an employee who doesn't do any of these.
Right.
Don't keep giving somebody second, third chances. It's one thing if they're screwing up on a process or asking for help. If this is just, it's not there and they're just emotionally checked out, move on.
Yeah.
It's a cancer. It's causing problems. It's causing so many unforeseen problems on your sales floor that you know nothing about, costing you money, costing other people around them money. You don't need that. So you make sure they understand.
Yep.
You do things right initially,
Yep.
and then hold them accountable and hold yourself accountable. That's a big part of this, is
Agreed.
holding yourself accountable. If you're a leader
hard.
and you're holding yourself accountable for the things that you believe in and your values, it's a lot easier to hold other people accountable and to lead other people. If you're coming up short and you know you're not doing the things you're supposed to be doing and living your life the way you're supposed to be doing, it's really hard for you to instill that on other people.
Yeah, nearly impossible.
Right.
I would say it would be nearly impossible unless the machine is so big. It's just you'd have to attempt to sabotage it. I think it's nearly impossible. If you don't have your shit together, the rest of your team is not going to.
You have to have a certain faith in yourself, though, too.
Absolutely.
You have to.
Is what you kind of were saying before. If you're acting out one way, but you're thinking another, that's not the same thing. You've got to actually believe, and then that belief.
Yeah, you can't fake it. Absolutely.
No, and it's hard. This is not easy stuff, but this is second level stuff. This is the stuff that eliminates recessions. It eliminates.
It is second level stuff. This is way outside the box.
Right.
Being a better person, creating a better society type stuff. I mean, you can be as hokey with it as you want, but these are facts. This is not. This is getting at. You talk about the whys. This is the whys things succeed and don't. And you said something that I don't agree with. I don't think it matters how big it gets. Crappy companies, no matter how big they get exposed because they fall short on stuff like
General
this.
Electric.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
it
good
doesn't
point.
matter. And at some point, even if it's crappy at a store level, usually you don't luck yourself into being that size. There was somebody at the top that was doing things right, and at some point it strayed. The wrong person got in control.
Good point.
And it falls apart. It trickles down.
Yeah.
But it eventually gets exposed.
Yeah. And just so, and I hope, and I don't think we're coming this way, we're not blasting managers in car dealerships here, because that job, until you've worked that job, I I don't know of anything that I've done that's any.
It's coming up in section 3 here.
Okay.
In the empathy section.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah.
I have it starred. I said it's a big one for our industry because dealer's job is hard.
Right, man.
It comes up under the empathy section,
good. All right,
especially
we'll
as
wait
vendors. So I am going to hit on that.
Okay, good.
So we move on. I mean, we could talk. Self management's a big one. We could talk about it for a while. Another one that I had when you were talking about writing down is writing down negative stuff.
I was going to say real quick.
Yeah.
Part of that self-management is recognizing the difference between needs and wants. Needs have to come first,
Right.
before wants. So in your how you manage your emotions and to manage what you're trying to accomplish, its needs have to be done first,
Right.
not the things you want.
Right. Yes.
Give an example of a true need versus a want.
A need is the most basic. Safety is a
Okay.
need. I want a big house.
Right.
Okay.
So
There's a
you
difference.
think so you get people chasing wants before needs, and they kind of
And
get sidetracked,
Probably.
Yeah.
and that's where they probably deviate from their values a little bit when you start doing that as well.
I agree. Yes.
Okay. And under this is meditation. Again, I know I keep talking about it every time I'm on here. Even if it's not true meditation, deep breaths, deep breathing. I mean, at its core, deep breathing is meditation. It's focusing on your breaths instead of focusing on the 8 million different emotions you're feeling or all the external factors that are putting force on you and trying to steer you down that bad path. Take a second, take 5 minutes out of your day and focus on your breathing and listen to some relaxing noises. I mean, real basic stuff.
You gave us the one app. I don't have it.
Insight Timer, yeah. I love
Yeah,
Insight Timer. I'm a big fan.
And I've read a lot of great reviews of that particular timer. I had said with Craig on one of these other previous podcasts what we learned through Anthony Robbins,
I'm
Tony
sure.
Robbins, the breathing technique. That because it just delivers that much more oxygen.
Right,
to your
that's
brain.
it's a
And-
tie-in. It's
there's
it's synergy
value.
between
You'd
the
freak out over
psychology and the
Robbins saying,
physiology.
You really should at some point try to go.
Yeah,
down.
yeah.
They're
We can make that happen
they're
for
really
sure.
very interesting, right?
Right.
Yeah, oh, very.
Like,
And-
all
And it's the same
so
as
educational.
that is the same as this. You have to have a willingness to want to accept that there is merit to this.
Right.
A lot of people are very closed-minded. Not a lot,
Well-
but there are people that are closed-minded to it and like, it's a bunch of psychological mumbo-jumbo. I'm not going to do that.
Right.
Ultimately, that would be a person that's unwilling. That person wouldn't be on my team.
Right.
Because that'll just, as you were saying, that'll destroy everything you're trying
Absolutely.
to achieve.
And that's why
It's
it comes
not
back
possible.
to step one, and that's why self-awareness is the first pillar of it,
Has
because
to, okay.
nothing comes in line afterwards unless you have self-awareness, humility, and can recognize that within yourself.
Yeah, there you go.
And if
Okay.
you look at it at a company structure, it's got to come from the top too. You could have the
It does.
strongest team in the world that preaches all this. If you got someone at the top who
Disregards.
thinks they're perfect and
Yeah.
doesn't need to make any improvements, it's never going to work.
Correct.
It has to be from the top down. Absolutely. So the third component is social awareness, and that is where we get into empathy a little bit. And empathy is huge. Again, you talk about EI and you talk about self-awareness. I know empathy always gets thrown into emotional intelligence as well, and I know we've focused on it and we've talked about it on one of our calls. And it's empathy not just within the company, empathy for customers, empathy for clients.
Yeah.
Heck, it's empathy for the entire world. We talked about how we're having such a good year, and we sat down and we said, it's been a few years since we've been in a situation like this. Who can we give back to? What can we start giving to? Because we're really lucky. In our call, so last Friday when I was in a bad mood, I thought, what better way to get out of this than to talk about gratitude? Let's sit here and let's just all talk about what we have to be thankful for. Not professionally, can be professionally, not
Right.
necessarily, but I made everybody go around the room and
Right.
talk about one thing they're thankful for,
Right.
and it was awesome.
Right.
We cried.
Right.
We talked. I mean, it kept going, and
Right.
what you realize is you have a lot to be thankful for
Yeah.
when you start talking about
Yeah.
it instead of talking about the things that are minor inconveniences.
Yeah, and I guess it shouldn't be any surprise, but the number one thing that people are grateful for in their lives is what?
family.
Family, right? And I said
It was
right
number
there,
one.
I said we can all say the same thing if
Right.
we need to. It's fine.
Right, and we did,
Right.
and
For
it was
more or less,
fine,
right.
and it obviously is crazy important. It's what fuels all of us at some deep DNA level, obviously, and as it should.
Right. So it's funny. I said when I got to this point, I made a big giant asterisk in my notes. A big part of empathy for us as vendors and I've mentioned it to our people internally a million times, especially people who come to us that are new employees who aren't used to the automotive industry. I'm like, look, these aren't bad people that you're talking to. You're going to have some rough conversations. Right. It's a really, 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 really hard job. Yes. It's very stressful. You cannot sit here and judge from your chair and say, this guy, this girl is a jerk.
Right.
Everyone is having their own battles. Everyone's having their own fights. I wrote down my quote, my Plato quote, because I loved it, and I mentioned it on the call where we talked about empathy. Be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a harder battle.
Okay, guys, those of you listening, watching, so forth, I'm going to ask Joe to reread that. Please take out something to write with. I'll give you 5 seconds. Don't do this while you're driving the car. Just hit it on the replay. But this is what Joe just said is one of the keys to all of this. So if you could, Joe, one more time with that.
Be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a harder battle.
Right. You don't know. It's like our Dead at Midnight thing. You don't know what's happening in that other person's life. You have absolutely zero clue what's going on. Vendors, listen up. You're talking to a manager. That manager, I don't care what size organization it is, that manager has, if he or she has, let's be a sales manager, has 20 salespeople. I'm telling you, for sure, as we're all breathing right now, 2 of those people are total knuckleheads. and he or she has got to deal with that. And the other 18 people, it's unfair to them. You know, they need the manager, and they need the manager to be on the ball, but he or she's got to deal with those 2 knuckleheads. So you got to look at it through your manager's eyes sometimes. Oh, my manager's, was it his idea to order all these white cars? They all look the same. Was it his idea to put our ad budget this way? Was it his idea to change the CRM? Was it his idea to do this, do that, and another thing? And he or she gets blamed for everything. We have to have empathy for that manager because, ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you, unless you've been there, you have no idea. It is a tornado 60 hours a week. And at the end of the month, when he or she has to go to the GM, or if you're a GM and you got to go to the dealer principal, or if you're in a dealer group, you have that situation, man, I'm going to tell you what, those are not comfortable situations. And, you wonder why they get paid so much, because you got to put up with a lot. So let's have some empathy for the manager. Frankly, when I sold cars, my most productive results were always because of my relationship with management. And it was rarely on their part. It was mostly on my part. Feeding your F&I manager every day for lunch is a really good idea. Now, if you all do that, you're going to have a 700-pound F&I person. But, I mean, my finance guy in the box never paid for a meal as long as I was there. And when I was at Progressive Chevrolet, never paid for a meal. I always bought his food. And I got deals bought that were just, no. I would hear him screaming at banks about my deals. Right? You want to sell 57 cars in a month? You got to get those things bought at the bank. Empathy for these people.
I'll give you another definition along the lines. Empathy is the capacity to understand or feel what another person is experiencing from within their frame of reference. For example, the capacity to place oneself in another's position, and that's
so hard. It is so hard.
Walking in another man's shoes. Stuff.
It's so hard. So sometimes I hear, we always have this. The 3 of us have a group text, right? And sometimes I see stuff and I sit there and go, oh, "Really? Come on!" and it's like, but I don't know what's happening in your life right then and there. I don't know what's happening in your life right then and there. I just don't know. But not all the time, but every once in a while I go, really? Come on. That's what I want to say. I don't. Luckily, hit that send button on that.
Well, yeah,
but it's like because
we
I
could
don't
be-
know based on what you just said.
Yeah, we could be slammed doing something.
Right,
So it's
who
just a
knows?
quick response back to you, like, okay, boom,
Right.
I'm focusing on this.
Right.
You know,
What do I do? A website lead hits. What do I do automatically?
did you get it done, basically?
Right. It's like in 5 seconds. I'm like, where are we at on
Yeah,
this?
what's the
Is
result?
it like
It's not just website leads; it's everything.
Yeah.
So
It's like, Craig,
so
come on, man.
hopefully Jody's listening. My dad asks Jody every time we send a credit card for payment. It's an automatic email. Jody, has it been run? Like she always tells us when it's been paid,
I
but
know.
it's just auto response. So yeah, it's recognizing, and it's fine. It's hard. You got to be careful with that because you aren't in someone else's shoes, so you don't
Right.
know. Just understand vaguely and generally that everyone's fighting their own battles. Everyone has stuff going on. Even if you can't understand it, you don't have to analyze it. Just accept that if someone's acting a certain, and listen, it could, what they might have be going on is that they're a douchebag and that they're a crappy person and they're angry all the time, and that's fine. What you have to do is not let that affect you. Say, man, that stinks. I really feel for that person. They must be miserable all the time. If this is how they talk to people, if this is how they feel, if they're this nasty, they feel the need to be that nasty. It's not that. It's what's the line from What About Bob? I say, Bob, this person's just temporarily out of order right now. It's not you. It just no. It's not you. It's them, and move on. And like I said, respond instead of react to it. Second big part, I want to get into the social awareness. Again, we could have done an entire hour within the automotive industry talking about
Right.
social awareness.
True.
Service ethic is a big part of social awareness. The ability to understand and meet the needs of customers as it pertains to running a business or
Okay.
being in a business.
Okay.
So I mentioned to you this is something that Brad Robinson and I got into on Jason's page. Jason, your page has turned into like a forum at this point. It's funny.
It is.
He'll make one post and then it just goes on for like
It is.
200 comments.
Yeah, and you don't care.
Right. So this one was good. And I do, we talk about practicing and getting better at this stuff. I feel like this one and a few of these are kind of ones where you either got it or you don't. And you
Okay.
can work at it. So Brad and I started talking about where this comes in handy for me, and it kind of separates a good salesman from a great salesman, is being able to rapidly process information within your brain, truly listen to what someone is saying,
Right.
assess the situation, and formulate your response right then and there on your feet and talk to them instead of, I got to think about that for a second.
Real important.
Right. So know that you're serving them and that you have to listen. Like you said, really listen. Not be thinking about what you're going to say next before they're even done talking.
Yes.
Hear it, digest it, understand where it's coming from and what they're really trying to relay and what their needs truly are, and then respond to it. And that's not just for sales. Obviously,
No.
anyone who's married out there knows that's a huge part
Yeah,
of,
you better
of
do
being
that.
married.
Right.
Is back and forth. And
Listening.
I don't
Managing the
agree. and-
store.
yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, talking
all
to your
parts,
people.
All
Yeah,
parts of
everything.
life, man.
Right. What is this person truly trying to tell me?
Right.
And then responding to that instead of
Right.
reacting,
Right,
jumping down their throat.
and it seems like we're in like outside the business in a regular relationship. And I find I do this a lot, and I really got to work on it. It's the one-up thing.
Absolutely.
A guy tells his story and
Story
says, "Oh, you think
toppers.
that's good?
I got a
Listen
friend.
to this."
I got John Strawn. I know you're not listening, but I'm calling out John Strawn, and our one friend Kelly would call him just constant, especially when he drinks, non-stop story topping. I mean, it's not even worth it because he's going to come with something
I
better.
know.
So you know he's not listening to anything you say.
No, they don't. You don't. You really don't.
Not a word.
You're just waiting for them to take a breath,
Done, yeah.
so you can say, "Well, wait to hear this."
Right.
And I do that.
Everyone does it. It's
Yeah.
again, this is all natural instinct. Tough.
Yeah.
It's stuff.
I
You
think
gotta,
I think the older you get, the harder it is to stop that because you have so many stories.
yeah, you have things.
I mean, it's like there's so much
Right.
life experience. It's like I've done some crazy stuff, man. It's like you think that's crazy,
Right.
Try sliding down a 150-foot waterfall into a basin,
Right.
high on LSD. Top that.
We're not doing LSD
We're not
stories.
stopping that, are we,
That's-
Joe?
We're-
Oh,
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. See, some of the
Yeah.
awkwardness of being in here with my dad is
Right,
is
it's
that
weird.
there's certain things that it's like
Right.
I don't
Better
think we
left
can talk
unsaid.
about that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So really,
At this point.
right.
Right.
So really, it's funny you mentioned that comes back to the service ethic of when you're having a conversation with someone, and I think this does pertain more to sales and running a business, being a part of a business, whatever you may call it, your career.
Ernie, your wife is watching.
Oh, cool.
There you go.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Joe.
Is just having that service mindset.
Thank you,
I'm going
Kyle.
to listen to what this person has to say and address their needs and what they're trying to tell me instead of, like you said, just dictating and story topping. Next aspect of social awareness is organizational awareness. And this is another big one that kind of, again, I feel like this is kind of ingrained for a lot of people. It's just being aware, recognizing the power dynamics, the emotional climate or structure within an organization, whether it be your family, whether it be your business, whether it be a competitor's business, just being aware of the power dynamics within a group and the key players' power dynamics, what drives them, their emotional climate, etc.
Okay, go further with that. I'm having a hard time with that one. So
within a family, let's do family because I do want to show how this applies to things other than the sales industry.
Right.
So, you and I have always said there's always a push and a pull in a relationship, right?
Right.
And it's not that extreme. It
No.
could be by a tick. A lot of people,
Correct.
type A people, seek out other type A people, but there's still usually alpha, beta, right?
Correct.
It's just the way it is. It's human nature. It's just somebody's got to just chill.
Yeah.
So
if you're dancing, someone's got to lead.
Absolutely. Right. And it doesn't work if you don't.
Correct.
It really doesn't.
You step
And my
on each
wife will
other's
say
feet.
that to me and it's not a man thing, it's not a women thing. There's a
Right.
lot of women that lead their family from an emotional standpoint too.
Correct.
It's not about man or woman.
Right.
So it'd be the alpha, I guess, or you could take either one, recognizing this and knowing this, and instead of being a jerk and abusing that quote unquote power,
Right.
understanding the responsibility that they have to lead their people, their family,
Okay.
to set the right example, to
Right.
do the things that we're talking about.
Right.
And again, for the beta, it might be recognizing that, okay, this is the leader of our group. Or let's go in the dealership. The GM is in charge. I trust this person.
Right.
This is someone who is instilled a great culture. They know what they're
Right.
doing. They know what they're talking about. It's okay for me to follow their lead and to listen to the things that they're telling me because they know more about this or they're better in tune with this aspect of the business than I am.
Right.
Accepting that and being okay with that.
Right. Okay, so that leader, that alpha, has to be aware of their position and not abuse it.
Right.
Obviously, right?
Right.
And know when to pull the trigger, so to speak. And
Well, yeah, I mean,
force is the wrong word.
Well, I know where you're going.
To facilitate their leadership.
right. So emotional climate was the other part of that. It's not just the power dynamics; it's the emotional climate. Emotional climate is not
Right.
static. That changes on a daily basis. So you
right.
got to understand. You come in on a Monday. You guys got your asses handed to you last month. You know your people. You should know your people of where their head's going to be. What do I need to do when I come in here?
Should know your people, yes.
Right. It's kind of like a coach. A coach is a great example. Sports are such a great analogy for the real
Yes.
world because they know their people better than everyone else. They know that when they come in, it's like a college coach going to the NFL and trying to use his college coaching tactics in the NFL
Right.
and lasting a year and getting sent. His ass goes right back to college because that doesn't play in the NFL because these are grown men. You have to know the emotional climate, where their heads are going to be, and what I have to do to motivate my people to get their heads steered on properly.
That goes back to real quick the college coach analogy when Jeffrey Lurie of the Eagles terminated the employment of
Chip Kelly.
Chip Kelly.
I
And what he talked about at the time was emotional intelligence.
did he?
Oh, yeah. And this was really interesting because I got to tell you, most everyone poo-pawed like, oh, what's this guy talking about?
Yeah,
Like,
sure. He's ahead of the curve, and look what happened.
He was
Right.
way ahead of
Really?
the curve. He said, I want a man, or in this case, coaching a man,
Right.
with emotional intelligence. You can go back to that press conference.
That's awesome.
Of his search.
Wasn't aware.
And he ended up with Doug Peterson.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Right.
Hires a relative unknown. that
Complete
no one made a big
polar
deal
opposite
about.
of Kelly.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that whole philosophy has permeated that organization.
Right.
But it came, to your point,
That's interesting.
it comes from him.
Right.
It comes from Jeff Lurie.
The leader.
It has
You
to
know?
start at the top.
Right. Right.
Yeah, and you find the right people that buy in or are part of your culture. And what did you tell me that's something that I've told to our people that's a big Peterson thing that you brought to me? Win the day.
Yeah, win the day.
Win the day. Right. And I mean, what better analogy in sales industry? I mean, what are we doing every single day? You want to sit there and you want to really be depressed and beat yourself up?
Right.
Think about the fact that you just have to do what you did every day for the next 30 years.
Right.
You're done. It's
you-
over.
You're so right. When I sold cars, it would be the first of the month, so the board is all wiped clean, all the chalk's off the board, and it's like, where the hell are them 30, 35 deals going to come from this month? It would freak me out, right? And until I learned to live, quote unquote, one day at a time,
Right.
Because you're right. In sales, in what we do, all vendors, all dealers, relationships, man, yesterday's a history lesson.
Right.
You know, you can only learn from what happened yesterday. Tomorrow's not given to us, so let's, today, this
the day.
hour,
Yeah, that win
like
the
right
day
now, man.
is a great philosophy.
It is. And
Yeah.
you can go, emotional intelligence actually is taking that and going a step past that, and it's take the moment.
Yeah.
Stay in the moment. Stay within each and every single moment. Be in the moment. That's the key to all emotional intelligence, is being in the moment at that exact second.
That
Hey,
is
shout out
very
to
much
Elizabeth
practiced.
Lyons, new friend. She is the book person, the book guru. No, that's not even a right thing to say. If you want to get a book published or learn how to do it, Elizabeth, you put out some information, I don't know, a day or two ago on Facebook about how what did you do? You sent a book to Julia Roberts, who I am secretly in love with. Is she available?
She might be 60.
Oh, I don't know.
Is she my age? She might be too old for me.
Yeah.
But,
No. You're past all that, remember?
Oh,
The
that's
last
right. That's
show,
right. That's
last
right.
Yeah,
That's
I think,
right.
I think
Yeah.
that ship sailed.
That's right. Yeah. I'm going. Yeah, that's right. So at any rate,
Again,
but she sent.
We are going to remind you.
Yes, that's cool. So she sent a copy of her book. I think the name of her book was "Are You Shitting Me? I'm Having Twins" or something like that.
yeah?
That was the name of her book.
I love that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Sent it to Julia Roberts, got a handwritten thank you note back from Julia Roberts. So her point was there was a lot of different ways to get a book published rather than using a publicist and this and that and another thing. So I found that to be a very interesting article, and it's I'm glad you're following us now, and I'm really glad to see that you're on the watching the podcast. So please share it out to all your big shot friends.
Yeah.
Share this out
Guest.
to Julia Roberts. That would be awesome. All right, so I'm sorry.
No,
Hey,
you're
I got to
good.
pee. I'll be right back.
You're good. So just wrapping up social awareness then, things you can do. We talk about things you can do. Number one is obviously listen. Nothing trumps truly listening to what people have to say. Some other things that I kind of found, a lot of this I quote unquote stole from a site, some of the what to do's. I'm pretty read up on the subject themselves, but it's nice to have the what to do's because like you said, this is stuff that needs practice. Body language. Body language is a huge one that people don't pay attention to. You get so caught up in the listening that you're not paying attention to what the person's doing with their hands, their legs, their eye contact, stuff like that. And that's a big part of what someone's feeling and what they're thinking. So body language is a huge one. People watching, I thought that was an interesting one. And that's something that I do. So where I was talking earlier about how I was beating myself up and how I stink at some of this stuff, I feel like social and organizational awareness is something that I'm great at. I just do it. You know, Christina and I will go to a party or you know, parties or play dates at this point in our life. So we'll go somewhere and I feel like I'm creeping on people, but I'll watch how they interact with their children and I'll pick up on little things about who they are as a person. you know, I don't want to stereotype people. You make some pretty good inferences, though, off of watching how someone parents and how they interact with their child, how they interact with their spouse in a high-stress situation, how they handle the stress of 20 different little kids running around. So I'll get in the car and I'll say, hey, did you notice this? And she's like, no, I didn't notice that. What are you talking about? I'm like, yeah, it just stuck out. I thought that was odd.
Mm-hmm.
So just being aware of what people around you are doing and not just what they're saying. And then cultural awareness is a big one. So you just have to understand, and we talk about this a lot. I could go a step further from cultural awareness to demographic awareness, knowing that the way you interact with a woman is going to be different than the way you interact with a man. The way you interact with someone from a particular race might be different from the way you interact with another race, a religion, etc. Cultural differences are big. People interact in different ways throughout different demographics and sects of culture.
That gets to be a little bit challenging, though, because you don't
absolutely.
always have that interaction. Like, so
Right.
how do you get to quote unquote practice?
That's not
that?
one you can. Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, I
for
would
sure.
think.
It's just, again, it just comes into emotional intelligence and understanding.
A learning.
It's okay, and it's okay to know that. Hey, I don't understand. You know, I'll say it to my wife all the time. I had my intro to speech professor in college, Mr. Dinkus. That's Dinkus, not Dingus. Was awesome, and I was scared to death to take speech, and I took it, and I mean 2 weeks in, it was like not even a big deal. So something that he talked about was the meta messages that women send a lot, right? So he put this question out there in class of, okay, so we're getting ready for a party at my house, and my wife comes over and she says, there's no more beers in the cooler, or something along those lines, you know, or there's no beer in the cooler, or something like that. So he goes around the class and he goes to the girls and he goes, what's she saying to me? And the girls go, she's telling you to go put beers in the cooler. She asked us, and this is way before, I'm 23 years old, and I'm like, she's saying that we're out of beer, right? So So I pay attention to it now, and I notice it is something that women do a lot, where they just infer things.
Yeah, okay.
You have to kind of grab it from the conversation. They're not just going to come out and say in black and white what they want or what they're thinking or what they're feeling. You have to grab that out. So so I'll say that to Christina. I'll be like, look, it's okay to not know, hey, I'm sorry, I didn't understand that that's what you were saying.
Right.
It's okay. You're never going to be perfect. We were talking about cultural and demographic differences in human interaction.
Got it.
And how Ernie said, well, you don't get a lot of practice. If you're not around that particular race or religion or culture a lot,
Right.
it might be tough for you to interact with that person, and,
Yep.
and that's okay.
Of course.
Just understanding that you're not
Given.
going to 100% be on the same wavelength with that person.
Impossible.
And then, like you said, say it. I'm like, I
Right.
didn't quite get what you
Right,
Yeah,
I
I don't get it.
apologize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you guys try the peaches?
I did.
Sure
You
did.
know what? I'm trying to take
man.
bites in between talking.
They're awesome.
Ernie, they are really good.
They
I
are
thought that when I took a
really
bite.
good peaches.
They're coming around. We're gonna have like a 3 or 4 day window here where they're gonna be absolutely
Yeah.
perfect. They're not quite Mackinac peaches for
they're-
Seinfeld viewers out there.
Dude, those are good peaches.
Who was the Seinfeld fan that I missed? I was so bummed when I was watching the episode.
I don't know.
Who was it? Was it Glenn?
You
Somebody
going-
came on and was throwing Seinfeld references around, or was it Mike
Oh.
Logan? Might have been Mike Logan. It
It was.
was Mike.
Mike Logan, yes.
I
Their
was so
comedian.
mad. I was like, man, I could have ran with that.
Yeah. He was good. He's an interesting character.
Yeah, for sure.
He's a cool cat.
Yeah.
From
And
Michigan.
then last four, I'll get through this fourth one here, and we'll go. This fourth one kind of ties it all together. It's relationship management, which is basically using your awareness of your emotions and other people's emotions to manage interactions successfully. And it's kind of all the stuff that we've been talking about right now. Anything you can do to enhance or improve your method of communication. Everyone communicates differently, right? So
Yes.
understand how you communicate and get good at that, and get good at it in both a relaxed state and a stressful state. So next time, be conscious of the next time. I had it this week. I had a call from a dealer that was unhappy because he's in a tough area, and we hadn't found him techs over the course of 2 months or so. And I was getting ready because he was confrontational. So, I'm sitting there in the middle of it, and you're letting somebody talk, and you're listening, and I'm truly listening, but I'm getting ready to pounce, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to catch yourself and recognize this is a stressful situation. I'm in a stressful situation. How am I going to respond to this? So it's being aware of your style of communication and getting better at it.
And part two, Joe, is we react based upon the past reactions.
Right.
So
It's
it was
right.
graduating
It's
what
Brendan is level 2 swim thing.
yeah,
Brendan,
that's cool.
way to go, baby.
So sometimes what happens to you is it's now the similar situation, and you automatically begin to react the same way. And
Right.
You've got to realize that the past is not the present.
Right.
You know,
It's right. It's okay just because you screwed it up once. It's
or that bad situation doesn't mean that this one's going to be bad. You
Right.
just you have to be able to isolate it.
they're all unique. Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Part of it comes with this, and this is a tough one. It goes back to humility and knowing your strengths and weaknesses, is accepting feedback. That's a two-way street, because one, you need to first create a culture where people feel comfortable giving feedback, whether it's in your family, whether it's with your friends, or whether it's with, if someone, you talked about some of those too big to fail type companies where the reason those probably failed is because the person at the top couldn't accept feedback and just surrounded themselves with yes men.
Yeah,
So
probably.
when that person started making bad decisions, no one had a voice to say you're making bad decisions. So
Yeah.
there was no one there to stop it.
That goes on in our industry a lot.
Right.
A lot. There's always an alpha in the room. That's why I don't believe it. Just as a minor kind of sidebar to this, that's why I'm not a huge fan of those group interviews, because basically they're going to go with the alpha all the time. What do you think, boss?
Yeah.
I don't like him. Yeah, me neither. What do you think, boss? Love him. No kidding. I do too, boss.
Yeah, sure.
Because that's the way that
Yeah.
goes down every time. So why bother?
Right.
I don't get it. I really don't. I really honestly don't get it. If you're on the fence on an interview, yeah, one other you know what? I'm not quite sure, and here's why. Let me just get your take on it. Well, what about, no, just go in there cold.
Right.
I just want your feeling on it is a better way to do it than that, committee of 4 grilling that interviewee. It just, I don't know, just doesn't
Right.
work for me.
Right. And then another big one, you talk about practice and you talk about it's hard to, the best way to practice is not avoiding confrontation. Part of the problem with this is so many people are so icky about anything that puts them outside their comfort zone or having a confrontational conversation because they're not prepared to handle it properly that they
great
avoid it.
That's
So
a
the
good
only way
point.
to
Really
practice
good
is
point.
to be in
That's
those
hard to do.
situations.
It's like to say the word no to someone is hard.
Right.
That's hard. To confront a situation that needs to be confronted, it might be a better word, but is hard.
Right.
But those things have to be done,
Absolutely.
or you're gonna, it's gonna get screwed up. I don't care. Again, relationship, business, whatever it is, it's gonna get screwed up. If you don't have the ability to be able to say no, and if you don't have the ability to be able to confront a bad situation or potentially bad situation and speak your piece, that's problematic.
Right. And it doesn't even have to be confront a situation. And it doesn't even have to be confront. I know, like you said, you're trying to find a better word, but,
Yeah.
it is a confrontation.
Address.
Gaining understanding. How's
Right,
that?
but
Right,
it
or
could
that.
be a person. So you could do all this stuff, and there's always going to be people you just don't mesh with.
Yeah,
And
right.
it might not be their fault. It might not be your fault. You guys are just two really different human beings with different beliefs, different
Correct.
values.
Correct.
Doesn't mean they're wrong or you're wrong or
Correct.
someone's right. But what it does mean is you shouldn't avoid that, and you still have to find ways to use all these things that we talked about to
Yes.
navigate that interaction and those conversations and that relationship
Yeah,
in a healthy
great-
manner.
Great point.
You don't get to just spout off and be a jerk because you don't agree with anything that comes out of this person's mouth.
Right. Exactly right. Yeah, that's interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'll wrap up here because I got an Aristotle one too. I'm gonna fit a Plato and an Aristotle
Have
quote
at it,
into
dude.
the podcast.
I love it.
Knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. And I love that one. Knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom.
Yeah.
Because that's where this all this starts there.
And not the fake stories that we tell ourselves,
Truly
good
knowing
or
yourself.
bad. Really knowing yourself, because we all do
The
that.
good, the bad, and the ugly.
We all tell ourselves those horrible stories about who we think we are.
Right, yeah, this
I'm this,
isn't-
I'm that.
Sure.
Or we overblow our who we really are.
Right.
Which is that's a whole nother psychological issue. But yeah, that's really key. Knowing who you really are.
And like you just said, and I mentioned at the beginning, I think the the positive is harder than the negative.
Oh,
I think
I
we
think.
can all sit here and pick on ourselves.
Oh, there's no doubt.
And there's always truths to it. It spuns from somewhere. There's all stereotypes start somewhere, sort of thing. So
Right.
it's an extreme version of the negatives in yourself, but finding the positives in the things you like about yourself and the things that you're good at, and truly knowing your strengths is tough. It's tough. It takes a level of maturity and emotional intelligence. So that's my piece on emotional intelligence. I could sit here. We could talk. Where are we at?
laughing at that. An hour and a half.
Hour and a half.
Yeah, we're good.
I could keep going.
We're good. This Ramona said this is her favorite podcast.
Oh, thank you, Ramona.
That is very nice. Her question was going to be, how good are those peaches?
The peaches are really
On a
good.
scale of 1 to 10, they are a strong.
Yeah, these are
solid
Delaware.
9.
If you ever happen to be driving
Small,
through
little dainty
Delaware,
peaches.
Pfeiffer's Farms is a phenomenal story. So this guy gave us the rundown on the Pfeiffer Orchids story of where they came from. They started with just
Really?
a tiny little plot, and I mean they have hundreds of thousands of trees now. They do this seasonally. They do peaches. They do apples. They make a peach habanero salsa that is the most obscene. And it's so the preface for the salsa is the same thing with every person. It's like a pay it forward thing. So friends of ours, he goes, yeah, they make a peach salsa. I'm like, I don't really like fruity salsa. He's like, no, dude, I said the same thing. You got to
Yeah.
try it.
Huh.
So we had a party after the peach festival with some of the couples and their kids. And everyone's coming over. We're like, this is really good. And they're like, I don't really like fruity salsa. I'm like, yeah, I know. But you got to try it. By the end of the party, I was literally mad. I'm watching out of the corner of my eye. Everyone's housing our salsa. It was gone. I'm like, I got to go get
What
more
were you
salsa.
What were you dipping into it?
Chips, tortillas.
Yeah, awesome.
But yeah, it was.
That sounds good, actually. to
definitely.
me.
Pfeiffer Orchids is really cool. Right outside of Dover, Delaware.
Yeah,
I've been eating a lot of nectarines, plums.
Nectarines are great, man.
These.
that's good.
It's a great time of year.
yeah.
It is a good time of year.
Yeah, it's perfect for that stuff for sure.
Yeah.
All right, so I don't know if there's any questions anyone wants to throw at us about the today's topic so far. I think it's
I would love questions.
Hopefully, it's been helpful because this is really important in all aspects of our lives, and obviously in relationships, what we've talked about a lot, but specifically in the automobile industry, because we are approaching a situation right now where we're going in a bunch of different directions. The culture is such a buzzword, and we're chasing after these different disruptors, supposedly, the Carvanas and all that garbage, and it's really, man, we can do so much with what we have. Just think of the setups that we have in every dealership, regardless of size, across the country, regardless of brand. It is a perfect playground for this. It's just,
Tons of freedom. There's not freedom like this within any other industry to create your own culture within a store and create your own identity.
Exactly. You don't need a different CRM, a different process, a different BDC, a different anything other than learn about this. Someone take the lead, preferably the leader, and put this thing in motion, man.
I would start with one thing: be kind to yourself.
Absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, this is all kindness. If you're not building your organization around kindness, doing the right thing, I mean, at the end of the day, what you always used to tell me when I was young? If you always do right, you can never do wrong, right? That's always stuck with me. And it's true. It really is that simple.
It is.
You know inside yourself if it's right or wrong. Do the right thing and build your organization around that, and the other stuff starts to fall into place.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah, Anthony said, to figure out what makes ourselves tick, we have to make our. Come on, Craig. Yes, you need to figure out what makes ourselves tick first in order to truly understand and help develop others.
Absolutely. I tell
question.
Christine all the time, it's the oxygen mask on the plane analogy, where if you don't take care of yourself first, if you don't put your mask on first, you can't put on anyone else's.
That's a good one.
I mean, that's my whole life right there.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's a good one. That's true, right?
She throws it at me all the time. I mean, it's tough being a father, a husband with small kids, a business owner, where, I'll say, I got to do this or this, and she'll go, stop, because if you're not taking care of yourself, you can go a million miles an hour and get 20 things done every single day.
Right.
If you're not taking care of your head, it doesn't matter.
Right. That's a fact. Because then we're just chasing money.
Right.
And that's a
And you're talking the
Look at an end.
needs want stuff,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you're not taking
Right.
care of your
Right.
needs. The most basic needs are mental health, physical health.
Right.
I mean, without that stuff, everything else is
Right.
useless.
Right. We end up chasing money and making money the goal, the only goal, the number one goal, the number one focus. We're going to end up taking what I've always called dishonest dollars. You're going to do stuff that is really not good to do. On the way up here, what did I read? 3 articles about car dealerships.
Yeah,
Get,
some dealerships in PA.
get screwed up, man, doing bad stuff. It's like, that's because they're chasing money. Do what you do better than anyone else does it. Someone will find a way to pay you to do it. It's pretty simple. Just excel at what you do. And what we're talking about this morning here is we're talking about excelling and pushing yourself and your team, your organization, your family towards excellence. Money will be a byproduct of that. There's just no
Absolutely,
in terms of business. It'll just happen.
And even if it's not, and it's happiness, you'll get to where you need to go. You'll fulfill what you need to fulfill if
Right.
you're constantly working towards becoming the best version of yourself that you possibly can.
That's right. Yeah, and that trumps money all the time. Yeah, it would sound bad to say that Biden's money all the time, wouldn't it?
You always come back to the Trump.
What?
I think it's more. I think it goes back a little further. I think it's a card playing word.
It must be.
I think that's probably where it started.
Trumps it. Yeah,
You can look up the etymology of the word Trump.
I would think.
If we had
probably
Google
Isn't
with
Pinnacle,
us,
isn't that part of Pinnacle?
I think
probably
I
yeah.
think
I mean,
so.
and then you're talking. You're going way back.
Right. We do have to. We have to get another Google Home. We have to get another Google Home in here for when you're not able to make it, because that thing only responds to you. So we got to bring in
right.
another one.
Right.
We
that
could just
you and I
each
can
have our
use.
own, like a pet.
Yeah, kinda. That's a good idea.
Dress
pet.
it up. Put a little wig or
Geez,
just design
I really
it
wanna
any way
do
you
that,
want.
man.
I come up with these awful. I'm sorry, not awful. I come up with these off the wall ideas, and every time I look at you, and you're like, "Yeah, let's do that."
Yeah, I
I'm like,
do want to do that. That's awesome. You could dress him up as a cowboy, right?
Okay, well that's pretty cool. I take it back. That's
Yeah, that'd be awesome. A cowboy Google Home.
like Mr. Potato Home.
We could call. What could his name be? Cody? No, that's a good cowboy name.
I think they're missing out on being able to customize the name that you call them.
I think so too.
Yeah, why not?
I think they're dropping the ball. You should be
Yes.
able to make it. Hey,
Instead of
Right, to personalize
Alexa.
it to your own
Yeah.
life.
yeah.
Yeah, I would think so too.
And I know it's like, dude, they
It's
do it for
marketing.
brand recognition,
Right,
but it's
no
like,
question.
are we at that point? I mean, you're pretty much a verb, Google.
Right.
I think we can
Right.
chill on the brand recognition.
I would think. Yeah, but yeah, they should be able to customize the name.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So what else?
be interesting.
What else we got?
Well, as one of the topics that I put online, and we can or don't
Aliens?
have to. Yeah, the aliens.
Sorry. It's gonna take. I have a few of my friends lined up that I want to get on here.
Yeah.
My cousin Greg Coolin was gonna come on. He's still gonna come on.
Yeah, what
we
happened
had,
to that?
We had some internal stuff that we had to clean up, and I was doing it myself, and there was just no way that I could get up here. He's still coming.
Okay.
This is the first time I've been up here since then. I haven't been up here in like 2 months.
May God bless you too, Ramona. Thanks.
So Greg's still coming, but that's some stuff that we are definitely getting into. He's a huge Rogan guy.
Shelly Buck is on.
Hey, Shelly.
Shelley.
Shelly.
Shelly's doing an awesome job for us recruiting technicians,
Amen
advisors.
to that. Andy Buck is her husband and recruiter trainer for AutoMax and does a great job.
Absolutely.
We're so blessed, man.
Yeah, with the people we have.
When you think about it, it's mind-blowing to me. Mind-blowing. It never ceases to amaze me. I am grateful for that literally on a daily basis. It just blows my mind, the caliber of people that we have in our organization for years is just mind-blowing.
And the thing is, we still have a long way to go to improve ourselves.
We
like
talk
what we're
about a
talking
lot.
about
We're
here.
at 40%.
The reality is what we're talking about. We're not 100%.
No.
I mean,
No.
so for any organization, But the value is that we at least are trying. We
Right.
have attempted these things. We are
Right.
trying to be better, and we are trying to provide a better work environment
Right.
for the people that directly work, internally,
Right.
but also the trainers and how we interact with them.
Right.
That's been a learning curve.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
You bet.
So
So it's a long journey from
long journey.
it's my way or the highway
absolutely
to where we're attempting to be today.
correct. We're still attempting.
Yeah,
I'm not going to argue
well,
that.
it's not perfection. It's the journey towards becoming better.
But
Right.
we've also the people that we've attracted to the company are getting better and better.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Was don't sell yourself short. Your mind shouldn't be blown by this. This is an
Right.
emotional
No.
intelligence
Right.
thing. Understand that this is not, this is not on accident.
Right.
That stuff doesn't happen.
Correct.
So
That's correct. It is not an accident. It
Right.
just does not happen. You just don't bump into this.
No.
We have to focus on it. And for those of you listening, this is a focus thing. This isn't going to be watching a Gary V. And speaking of that, Google Gary V video emotional intelligence. He's got a couple of them. They're good.
they're good.
They're
Yeah.
really
He
good
swears
stuff.
a lot, so if that's going to hurt your ears, then just look
Yep.
somewhere else.
He does cuss,
don't know what
but
to tell you.
Well, you also sent us a really good link that I pulled up.
yeah,
There's a lot of great information out there.
there really is.
Just
It's
dig
everywhere.
in. Start. It's really intriguing stuff. I think, like Ernie said, as long as you're thinking about it, and as soon as it starts to become conscious, it's step one, and you'll start to see small improvements in your life. It's always better to be thinking about it than to not be thinking about it, and not self-aware in any aspect of your life.
Right.
Absolutely.
It's kind of like how you're at the moment. You're not obsessed with it, but sort of, right?
Right.
I mean,
Right.
it's become a major part of your thinking every single day,
Right.
and that's good. And if you can have a group of people, your culture of that, then you're going to be successful.
Absolutely.
Right. Speaking
no
of
doubt about it.
successful, let's talk about a couple of the friends of our program that are very successful.
Let's go with Troy.
Let's go with Troy.
So we'll start with the beginning, the basic, and then we can escalate to where he is today.
Right.
We're talking about Troy Spring, Brittany Spring, now Hunter Swift, and an entire team at Dealer World. They are a marketing firm. They call themselves a performance agency, and it's in large part because they perform more than just a typical advertising agency would do for a dealership. The relationships that they build with the dealership is beyond what a typical advertising agency would do. So, when you want more results, more traffic, but you don't want whole lot more vendors. Dealer World is one of the companies that can do it because they do everything there is within advertising. Better ads that lead to better digital, better social, better radio, better TV. Everything they do is a result oriented. MyDealerWorld.com is their website. When they began this company, literally, it was with $50, $60 of the few remaining dollars that Troy had at the time, and this is back in 2009, right after what was a recession, one of the worst global recessions that we've encountered. That's when Troy literally started this company. His back was up against the wall. So his ability to actually perform has been able to build where Craig's going to talk about in a moment, in 7 years, 6 years, whatever it is, 12 years. I mean,
12 years,
12 years. I mean, it's remarkable.
Yeah. Well, we made Troy Spring.
Yeah. We've recommended him. The thing is, we recommend all of the companies we're talking about, we recommend to our clients, which is a big leap. I mean, think about it. You don't want to recommend something to somebody else and then it fails and then there's a blemish on what you do as a company and who you are. So we've recommended Troy for years now. Our clients have had tremendous success utilizing his services. And that's the same with the other vendors we've talked about, but Troy's been amazing. Great man, great family man, somebody you want to have working for your dealership.
Yeah, this is the kind of guy and the kind of company, rather, because it's more than him. They're up to what, 40 people or whatever? I mean, their
guess it
growth
is by now, yeah.
ridiculous. We just got an awesome lead off of LinkedIn, so
Okay.
we should take care of. Craig, I'm taking over a store in Monroe, Michigan on Monday that is in desperate need of 7 to 8 salespeople. How soon can you have someone here? That's a pretty good lead. let's see here.
The 26th, everybody. The 26th. We're shut down for the 19th. We're full. 26th.
Right. The week of the 26th, boys and girls.
And I don't want to hear about month end. It's always month end.
Yeah.
And after that, it's Labor Day, and then
Right.
it's blah, blah, blah.
Right.
26th.
See, the beauty of what we do, to give ourselves a little bit of plug, you don't have to do anything.
We don't need you there at all. Be there on Friday.
Right. I mean, it's
Pick
like
who you want.
it's like we don't interfere. That's the big thing. We do what you don't have time to do, and we're really good at it. So let us handle it and just stay out of the way, and we'll tell you when it's over.
Jane, the peach was delicious. Jane's making fun of me because I'm chomping on a peach here on camera in the middle of Ernie talking. I couldn't stop.
Mama Jane. From Dealer World. Today, Inc. 5000 published their list of fastest growing private companies in America. Out of about 6 million companies that have more than one employee, Dealer World ranked 2701. The 2000, that's amazing. The 2019 honorary list was ranked by percentage of revenue growth between 2015 and 2018. We want to thank our internal team and our dealer partners. See, that's how.
Partners.
See, that's just listen to that statement that he wrote. Troy wrote this. We want to thank our internal team, his employees, which we've talked about how we feel about our people and how he feels about him, theirs, his, and our dealer partners. That's so important, vendors. These people are not adversaries. They're not dollars. They should be your partners for helping us achieve this honor with a 3-year growth of 243%.
Awesome.
It's only onward and upward from here. Congratulations to Troy and all the folks at Dealer World. And I think Ernie said this, but if you want more information, go to mydealerworld.com.
Right. And along with Troy, he worked automotive. You know, he started in sales, advanced all the way through.
Boogie Cousins just tore his ACL.
You guys.
Unbelievable.
Getting the live news updates over here.
Unbelievable.
We're trying to talk about Troy, Dad.
All right, I'm sorry.
Paying bills over here, man.
Yeah, right?
All right. Who else we got left here?
Steven
Warner.
Warner.
Yeah, Stephen Warner with Automotive HR. There's going to be a lot that we'll talk about with that, but the simple opening is that Automotive HR is a complete HR management system for both large and small dealerships. It targets and tracks top automotive talent, visiting hundreds of job boards, including Indeed, ZipRecruiter, Glassdoor, Google for Jobs. Automotive HR provides a branded career website and microsites that enhance the candidate experience and shares quality information about the dealership. Automotive HR allows managers to schedule, interview, and hire with ease and tracks all communications. The platform is EEO and OFCCP compliant.
I love that line.
And provides a full audit trail and can be used to allow for an effective onboarding and training process. That's kind of their story. What it's doing for a dealership makes it so much simpler. Now, if you think of any position that you need to fill, one of the first things you got to know is how to write an ad that's going to attract people's attention. You got to know what to put in the ad that's going to help it create SEO.
Yep.
You're going to have to know where to place that ad.
Yep.
And it has to be legally compliant. So all of that within this software platform is a push of a button.
Right.
Every position within the dealership. You don't
Right.
have to think about what to do. Here it is. You
Right.
need this, bang, push the button,
Yeah.
and it disseminates it. It goes out to the internet on the most relevant internet job sites,
Right.
and it's going to get you the most active response.
Over 100 sites, right?
Yeah, and it hits on the big ones. I simplify it because, and it does a lot.
Yeah.
And Steven will get into that with people when he's going through training, when he's doing a demo. When I'm talking to a dealer, here's what it comes down to, dealers, is that you're spending money right now every single month on Indeed or ZipRecruiter
Yep.
or both.
Yep.
I know you are.
Right. Right.
These are our clients that we go out and do deals with. They already have their own ads running, and I know
Correct.
they have a budget with Indeed.
Right.
We're offering a reduced price and
Right.
better product and better
Right.
exposure.
Right.
And that's just the ad side of it.
Right,
I'm
I was
not
gonna say,
talking about the
yeah.
applicant tracking system,
Exactly.
the
It's crazy.
organizational, the onboarding tool, et cetera. If you just want to replace your Indeed budget and save $1,500 a month,
Right.
call us.
Right.
And
If you got more than 10 employees at your dealership, this is literally basically a no-brainer.
And call me. I'll give you a discount, like I said.
That's right. Yeah, 800-878-5090. 800-878-5090. Just use the phrase "the Recruiter Podcast." Save you a couple bucks.
Yes,
And they're not. I mean, it is so inexpensive. There's not a lot of room. There's not a lot of profit margin. But we will save you a couple bucks. And by couple, I don't mean $2, but I also don't mean a couple hundred. So, but somewhere in between those two numbers.
By calling us, yeah.
By calling us.
But by utilizing the platform, you're going to save hundreds of dollars.
Oh, there's no question about it. You know, I've probably said it on 20 episodes. People say all the time, "Where did you find these people?" We've been, and what do they say? Running the same ads. We've been doing this. We've been spending thousands of dollars. We can't get people, and all of a sudden, boom! In 4 days, you guys put together these people that it was like you have them in a warehouse somewhere waiting for. It's because we use Automotive HR's platform.
And Joe, you and I hear it all the time. Well, I use Indeed, quote, right? But not in the way in which we are utilizing it through the Automotive HR platform, which is one of the things we do. I mean, there's more to what we do than
it's like
just use Automotive HR.
It's trying to turn Tom Brady into a running back. It's like, use the
resource.
Use the tool in the way that it's supposed to be used, I guess.
Right.
So it's very important. We got to wind this thing up here. Actually, it's just short of 2 hours, but it took a little time to get started. It's 1:00, and they've got air conditioning people coming in here at 2, so we probably should blow out of here. I personally think this has been one of our better podcasts, so maybe we shouldn't have hosts anymore or guests anymore. No, that's not true. No. I'm only kidding. As a matter of fact,
I think it's the peaches. Maybe we should
like
serve
to have
fruit all
here.
the time.
Peaches.
I'd love to have
all that grease.
Because I talk so much about when we're in these podcasts. When I first started in the auto industry, the training that I had, the ongoing meetings, that organization, they did some of this AI stuff before it was AI. Now, it wasn't anything like AI, but it was, I told you, the investment with excellence, Dr. Lou Tice.
Right.
And it was more than technical job skills. It was about how you could manage your life, how you could, so all of that. And that organization did that. So that learning was really effective. And my point in this is that there are many people from that organization that are incredibly successful. It's still within the auto industry to some capacity. So Roy Greenblatt, that's AJ, and I forget the other gentleman's.
Matt?
Is it Matt? Yeah, Matty. Yeah, Matt Greenblatt. I'd love to have them come into this show. Yeah. I'd love to have Kobe Fryer, who is their marketing guy.
Get him on, man.
He was a friend of mine way back when we worked in that business. There are other guys that organization. That's what I'm talking about. That's what an organization can be like. Now, it was dysfunctional for sure because it was back in the 80s. Right. What was it like back then? I mean,
a lot of cocaine.
There was a lot of cocaine. Literally. I mean, we'd be at our desk. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, so.
No question.
But that aside, there was a lot of pluses. So there's people like that need to come on, that branched off, did their own thing, but could share information. So Roy Greenblatt, if you ever watch our podcast, we're going to be busting on you. We're talking about you now, but you've got to come in and talk and bring Maddie, bring AJ. There'd be a room full of us here. I know you'd get a kick out of those guys for sure.
I talked to Matt about it briefly, but it was a few months ago when we did recruiting for their Tom's River store, and I mentioned by the way. It was before we even got started.
And
so
I said that to Roy too.
Call.
Roy was kind of like, what are we talking about?
Are they on Facebook? Are we friends with them on Facebook?
Yes.
Yeah. So they're Matt and I guess AJ too. I don't know AJ. They've built up a huge social media presence. Mm-hmm. They do some cool marketing stuff. They go into a lot of local restaurants and do like food tasting. My buddy Ari out at Tailgaters, who I'd like to get on here as well, because he's phenomenal with his marketing, his advertising. I've talked about him on here. You talk about emotional intelligence. This guy plugs other local area restaurants. he feels that strongly.
Wow.
These are his competitors, and he talks about how good they are and the
That's
food that
cool.
they serve and the things that they do and how long they've been around. It's really
Yeah.
cool. He's
Can't
just
hurt him.
outstanding guy. I mean, he's just a really good person.
That's interesting.
So the Greenblatts went in there and did like they have a this burger. It's called the Rothless Burger, and it's it's like this. So they came in. They
For those of you listening, he's about showing a hamburger that's about a foot tall.
right. So it's like a quadruple burger, and then they all had whiskey and beers and everything, and they just sat down, and that was the video that they did, was them trying to eat this stuff, all this food in their mouth, drinking whiskey at tailgaters.
Yeah.
It was pretty good. So
They're good
everybody
people.
check out Tailgaters in Galloway if you're ever in South Jersey. It's phenomenal.
And I think it's not, I'm going through some names as of last night, but Glenn Pash reached out, and we might have our first repeat guest next week.
right.
Glenn was
They were all there.
flipping awesome the first time he was on the show. And
I'm not Glenn. If you come, I'll come.
Right.
I'll be
Oh,
here.
for the wine, yeah.
I won't-
didn't think of
yeah, see?
not for the wine.
That's true. Did he get a bottle of wine out of that?
Yes,
I
he
did.
did.
Oh, that's
yes, he
good.
did. It was.
No, it was a nice bottle of
Is
wine.
that the
was a very
bottle
nice
that's
bottle
in
of
my
wine.
refrigerator right now?
No, that's a piece of garbage bottle of wine.
okay.
That's leftovers. That's house wine from a party.
The
that-
Pashes do not drink junk
No.
wine.
No, that was
Him
probably
and
the
his
nicest
brother.
bottle of wine that the wife and I have ever drank. So
But
much
it was.
appreciated.
You speak of that. I mean, and we kid around. I think we do a good job. Our three of us should probably do these more often.
Yeah, for
Probably.
sure.
Probably.
But the guests that we've had really, truly have provided a lot of information. You got to listen. It's a long format.
Well,
so
yeah.
I don't know if we could ever. Is there value to doing a recap of some kind? And
Yeah, well,
You know-
we do short clip. All the
Yeah.
all the clips, the so-called best ofs.
right.
They're all Joanna's. I don't know, maybe 2 behind, 3 behind.
Right.
But I just got to get them to Michael, and they'll go up on the site, and we start sharing those.
All right. Maybe we should do. more of
Actually, those can be shared now from YouTube, from our YouTube channel.
Okay.
They're on, I think the first 14 episodes clips are available.
that. But we don't put a time log of like at this time we talk about this. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, no, it is on the clips.
It's just a
The-
clip.
It's a anywhere between a 6-minute to a 30-minute clip.
Right, but it's not saying what that is going to talk about. The clip is there, but we don't say under
In
this.
the description, it
Yeah,
says a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
It's
changing it. I've been playing with this
It's a work-
YouTube channel.
work in
like
progress.
crazy.
Yeah, I just-
definitely. It's a better idea. It's a good
thought.
idea, so that people know.
Yeah.
Because right now it just says the Recruiter Podcast, the name's person's name,
Right.
short clip or whatever that
Right,
I put in there.
right.
But yeah, it's got to speak
More
to what it
descriptive,
is.
yes. Yeah.
I don't understand why people can't just take 4 hours out of their life and sit down
I
and
agree.
listen to us talk. I mean,
100%.
Get
Really.
it together, people.
What else you
Yeah,
got to
right.
do?
All right.
Right.
And as you say, please subscribe. We'd love if you
Please.
subscribe to our
Yeah,
YouTube channel.
yeah. One thing we
Share it.
Right.
I mean, we
not to whine.
Yeah.
What did we notice? It was like 90% of our minute views are from non-subscribers.
Yeah.
So it just, and again, we don't want to turn this into self-plugging here. You do have to have a Google account
Right.
to subscribe to anything on YouTube. So a lot of people, you probably go and I'll just click the subscribe button and it says log in.
Right.
So you got to be logged in first before
Right.
you subscribe.
Yeah.
In case anyone was struggling with that.
We would appreciate it, and this is going to go on for like ever. So, if you, and again, not to be patting ourselves on the back, but you listen to these podcasts, man, there is really valuable information in these podcasts that is not available anywhere. You're not hearing this stuff at conferences. You're not hearing them. And I got a lot of good friends doing Facebook Lives and doing awesome Facebook Lives. I mean, awesome. Anthony does a great job with Did You Hire Him Dead or Kill Him After You Got Him every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Does a great job.
Thank you, Anthony.
Yeah, thank you much. However, and those actually are going to be, we just found out we can upload those to our YouTube channel, so that's going to be done in the next 2 weeks or so.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, that is good news for everybody.
Yeah.
However, now I will say this: Anthony had on Corey Mosley. Corey's going to come up in, I think, October and come in studio with us to plug his new book.
I remember when we first met, or when I did, it was a battle plan with Jim Ziegler
Nice.
in Atlanta.
Who, Corey?
Yep. He was one. This goes back unfortunately quite
Yeah.
a few years.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was one of his first presentations. Jim had him speak. It was had to be one of Corey's very first presentations.
Corey's
He's a
really
great guy.
bright,
Yep. Yep. Good
really
man.
sharp guy.
Yep. Good man.
What was my point?
Well, just the value of our podcast.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The information.
I mean, the information is really, it's really awesome. And the upcoming guests that we have coming on, we got a lot of female guests that are going to be coming on here shortly in September. They might all be females, frankly, which we're all about. And women in automotive, shout out to them. But just tune in. And again, I know they're 2, 3, 4 hours long. How to eat an elephant, one bite at a time. So it's just take your time, listen to them.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, I absolutely guarantee you, you will find something in our podcast that if you put it into practice, will change your life, whether it be your home life, your business life, whatever. It absolutely will. If not, send me your address and I'll send you a misspelled AutoMax Excellent
peach.
hat. All right.
peach,
Listen,
Thank you.
Brother Ernie, anything to add here?
No, love it. I appreciate it.
Son, anything? from you?
No. Be good to each other out there, people.
That's
There's
right.
A lot of bad in the world. Let's everybody just chill out and be nice to each other. Start with yourself.
Agreed. With that, goodbye, boys and girls.
Peace.
Nice.